Hey guys, Rorius here. It is stream time. It is Reddit reaction stream time. And also membership shout out time. Um I'm just gonna do it immediately so that anyone coming into the stream uh sees those names immediately. Once again. Um so immediately off the bat, thank you to all the members. It's gonna throw some people. Some people are gonna be like, "Oh, did you do the membership shout out?" I did at the very start of the stream. So we've got Jonas with 34 months, Core Gamer with 31 months, Joan with 29 months of Royal Maximilian. We've got King of Fools with 25 months, Orangey with 18 months, Tiana with 35 months of Royal Maximilian. We've got uh Rocky with 19 months of Royal Maximilian. Yeah. And that's it for now. Uh I find it interesting how this chooses to order things. It must be like that. Yeah. Though it doesn't order things by total time. It orders it by latest update. So if you skip a month, it puts you up to puts you to the end of the list. It's weird. Yeah. Oh, hey, hi, Master. I am doing well. I am. Yeah. Unfortunately, the stream didn't get announced last night because I didn't think about it and no one else posted on the Reddit on the Discord. So this might be startling some people, being like, "Oh, suddenly Rorius stream." Yeah. Do I? Shall I begin? Shall I start watching the first thing? I guess I may as well. How free games trick you into spending money. Let's just start watching the first thing. Memes. Yeah.
Why are most free-to-play games becoming pay-to-win?
Free-to-play games.
Free-to-play titles. Free-to-play.
Pay to win.
Paying to win in a video game.
It's a pay-to-win model.
Games didn't used to be this way. Back in the good old days, there were no loot boxes, battle passes, or microtransactions. Something changed though, and game companies switched from play to win to pay to win.
The socially accepted way of behaving in your game should be paying.
But what's interesting is that in the beginning, almost every video game was pay to win. Back in the 70s and early 80s, you were most likely to find gamers at an arcade, surrounded by the aroma of heated circuitry and musty carpet. And for those that can't imagine the smell or weren't around for the arcade days, games were different back then. You had to pay to play, but you also had to keep paying if you weren't good. You see, back then, most arcade games used a life system, like Space Invaders, Pac-Man, or Time Crisis. And these games had only one goal: keep customers paying. They wanted people to fail, because this was how arcades made back their money on cabinets.
That's why games
that cost up to 10 grand.
This is why games in the past, like, people talk about how it's like, over time, games were getting like, as you progress from like the 70s, the earliest days of video games and like arcade games, as you progress through to the thousands, like 90s and the early thousands, people were complaining all the time about how video games were getting too easy. They were getting easier and easier and easier, and some people thought too easy. Master of High. Wait, they've got this weird freaking emoji thing. I can see it better on this screen. Yoda, I speak like. Yeah, and I remember there was an era where people were constantly talking about how games are too easy and that they should be making them harder, um and that certain games, like when Dark Souls or games like or Demon Souls or Dark Souls came out, there was this real debate over whether difficulty settings should be a standard or not. Well, thank you. And there was a consensus by many that like there's a consensus by many that there should be difficulty settings. There's a oh, thank you. And there was also a consensus by many that no, the games should be harder or should be as hard as they're designed to be. And that debate didn't really end up anywhere, I don't think. There's I think all that really happened with that is that some developers lent into the difficulty thing. Some developers moved away from having like a standard difficulty and just basically allowing players to play at the difficulty they want to play. And, you know, some people went for accessibility versus some people went for, like, preserving the core that is their style or difficulty or whatever. Please, they're outside your house. Oh, no. But yeah, the whole reason I started ranting here is that the reason for high difficulty and the reason that games ever were difficult in the first place is purely from the era of arcade games, where the whole point of the game was to draw money out of you. Get those pennies, get those quarters into the machine. And so some games were just brutally difficult because they knew that with every life that you lose, that's another unit of currency into the machine. Oh, dear. I don't have a cop inside my house. Yeah. They're inside the house. Also, hey Zach, you are here now. Yeah. For people who are just joining the stream now, I already did the shout out. So if you want to see the shout out for for the members of the channel, that was at the very start of the stream. Yes, I have heard of Lakeview Valley. I've been meaning to play it. Wait, is it the one I'm thinking of? Lakeview Valley. Oh, you're the guy who suggested yes, yeah. Or at least someone suggested to me very recently this game. Yeah, it looks weird. It looks interesting. No, but I actually was thinking of a different game. Is it not Lakeview? Lakeside? Nope. There's a game that I played a demo of a while back. It was you? Okay, yeah. There's a game that I played a while back that was like Lake something or Port something or shit, I don't remember what it's called. Portside? Whatever, there was a game I played a demo of a while back, and I know the full game is out, and I've been meaning to play that for ages. Arcades now. Oh, give me your card. Arcades in. I smell pennies. I smell pennies. Yeah, nowadays it's like swipe that card, baby.
This is also
Zach,
why you
you're
see
new
30
here.
people craning their neck to watch one guy for hours. Dumping quarter after quarter every few minutes as a teenager was pricey. But with the rise of home gaming in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
arcades started dying off. Why
Well,
spend
there
all
was
your
no
lunch money
need
trying
to.
to beat Ninja Turtles when you could buy the game once and play it as much as you want? So with the demise of arcades, the pay-to-win model went into hiding, at least for a little while. What's crazy though is that the pay-to-win model would take almost 20 years to reappear, needing
Yeah.
pay-to-play games, piracy, and League of Legends for it to come back bigger and badder than ever. What's even more crazy is that it all started with Doom.
Yeah, there was a good like decade of
There had never been something quite like Doom. It was massive, and it changed video games forever. Doom had top-of-the-line 3D graphics, there was a PC multiplayer, it supported mods, but most importantly, the game was free to play. You have to understand, this was insane to do back then.
there was a good like decade or so where games were just like you buy them from the store and then you have them at home and you can play them endlessly with no expectation of monetary gain beyond the initial purchase.
Didn't have free
It was
to play
so
games.
nice.
Remember, everything was physical. You purchased games on floppy disks or cartridges. Digital games weren't a
I was
thing.
born
So
in that
free-to-play
era.
games weren't free to distribute, meaning id Software had to buy millions of floppy disks, then print Doom on millions of disks, then ship these disks around the world, spending hundreds of thousands before ever making a dime. So why would they do this? Well, back then, developers were not the ones who made the most money off their games. Most of the money went to the publishers, and developers often got single-digit percentages in royalties. Id didn't want to go this route, so they decided to try the free-to-play model
You
known
wanted
as
to.
shareware at the time.
Using it before he pays for it. That's the wonderful thing about shareware. He actually has it in his hands, and he sees if it's fit for his purpose, and if it isn't, he doesn't have to use it and doesn't have to pay for it.
The goal was to get Doom in the hands of as many players as possible and hope they could upsell. A high-risk, high-reward strategy. For those confused on how shareware works, think of it like a phone game. Players only get access to the first few levels, with the rest of the game being restricted behind a paywall. The goal is to get people hooked, and if they want to play the rest of the game,
It's called a
they
demo.
need to call
It's called
and
the
pay
demo
for a code
nowadays.
that unlocks the rest.
They're
A little
the
more
demo for
convoluted
Doom.
than just adding your credit card. But the beauty of this model was that id would get 100% of the revenue instead of splitting it with the publisher. It worked. Doom became a phenomenon. Companies were banning Doom from their networks because LAN games were clogging them up and slowing things down. And the game had been installed on more computers worldwide than Microsoft's then new operating system, Windows 95. So because of the free-to-play model, id was able to upsell millions of copies, make tens of millions of dollars, and completely change the world of video games. However, id isn't among the modern gaming industry's juggernauts. Why isn't the company still revolutionary?
FH4.
And why aren't people complaining about them
No.
like they do EA, Activision, and Ubisoft? There are a few reasons, such as the founding team breaking up or creating some disappointing sequels.
Forza has
However, the
Forza
main
Horizon.
reason
I
is that
have
id
never really
got
played a
to
Forza
promote.
game.
They were years ahead of their time with the free-to-play model, but they ignored the main reason for Doom's global success and released their following game, Doom 2, for $40 a piece. They completely forgot the power of the free-to-play model, and as a result, they stopped making free-to-play games. Slowly, the company fell apart. So
Hey,
with the
Nathan.
failure of id, the free-to-play model amongst major studios would disappear in the West, at least until the rise of League of Legends 16 years later. But in the meantime, new innovators would eventually find success, and it's all thanks to piracy.
Why should I sail with any of you? 4 of you have tried to kill me in the past. 1 of you succeeded.
Game piracy was a huge problem in the 80s and 90s, especially in Asia. Unlike most Western countries and Japan, many Asian countries didn't have piracy laws. There was nothing enforcing that $250,000 warning every
It
time
is,
it
yeah.
popped in a VHS. So at the time,
Yeah, this is the
90%
first
of
video.
all software in digital entertainment was pirated, which means if you were a game developer and you had 1 million people playing your game in certain parts of Asia, it was likely that 900,000 of them didn't pay for it. Not a great way to make money. But there were many reasons for this. Cost of living differs greatly between countries. I mean, imagine paying $50 for a video game when your monthly salary is $200. So Western publishers did try selling games with prices that reflected the local cost of living, but pirates would just travel to those countries, buy copies in bulk for huge discounts, and then sell these games in
Yeah.
the States. And as I'm writing
why
this,
region
I
locking was
remember
the thing.
going to a swap meet in 2005 and seeing Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, for like $20 right after it came out. It was in a janky looking
Yeah.
case, but I didn't care. The game was half the price that it was at GameStop. And I'm just realizing that it was probably purchased somewhere in Asia and shipped to that dinky swap meet for people like me to purchase. So we can see that the rampant piracy in Asia and the rise of the
Well,
internet,
we'll see what the
up-and-coming
next
Asian
video is.
publishers really needed to innovate to succeed. And the first company to do it was Nexon. Unsurprisingly, Nexon was a Korean company, one of the countries most affected by piracy, and they released the first digital free-to-play
There you
game
are.
called Quiz Quiz in 1999. This MMO set off a chain reaction. setting in motion a wave of Asian free-to-play games. Nexon had finally figured out how to monetize video games in Asia, and they didn't stop there. Nexon went on to create MapleStory, the first pay-to-win game, in 2003, which was also the first game to feature loot boxes inspired by the real-life gachapon toy dispensers. But while many Asian studios were innovating, the West continued as if nothing had changed, selling physical games in retail stores, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it was broken. The West may not have had as much rampant piracy as Asia, but I remember the good old days of Pirate Bay and LimeWire. You'd have a dedicated computer for all your games, music, and viruses. So the US still had piracy, enough that the music industry was actually failing in the 2000s because of it. That said, piracy wasn't the only problem with the Western status quo. You see, the industry was growing.
Oh, imagine if we had managed to destroy the music industry back then. Oh, what a different world we'd live in. No! We didn't pirate enough. We didn't download enough music from LimeWire. Damn it! It was so close. Ah.
And companies wanted more people playing their games, but $50 price tags were keeping a lot of people out of the gaming market. So the other problem was price elasticity of demand.
What the hell is even that?
Basically, it's a way to measure demand for a game. So if the price of a game is $50, you can see only half the people who want to play a game will buy it. If the price goes down, the player base will go up. So if you give your game away for free, you maximize your player base. But if you give your game away for free, then you need to make money elsewhere. And Western studios just couldn't wrap their mind around this concept yet. Executives would sweat anytime they ever heard free to play. And in business, we call this an innovator's dilemma. This is where League of Legends comes in. Asia was popping out free games left and right, and the companies making them were raking in the cash. Riot's founders, Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill, the creators of League of Legends, saw the free-to-play model working in Asia and came up with a genius plan. They decided to create an optimized version of Dota, which at the time was a Warcraft 3 custom game with a massive player base, me included. They knew people loved the game, even though it was a janky experience. First, you had to purchase Warcraft 3, then you had to go to custom games and try to find a lobby featuring the Dota mod. Then when you finally found one, you could run to Taco Bell and back before the game even loaded. So Riot's founders knew they had a great gameplay loop they could optimize, but they also knew that League needed to be free to play. The founders took this idea of free to play Dota and with just a wireframe and a pitch, went to investors. Some were confused, thinking players would never spend money on cosmetic purchases. Others, however, were blown away. Mitch Lasky, one of the first investors in Riot, put it this way.
And they understood not only the free-to-play concept, but they understood how to bring an audience to the table to prime the pump of free-to-play.
So these investors didn't throw millions at Riot because the game looked good, but because Riot proved they knew how to make free-to-play work. Which is why League of Legends is one of the most pivotal games in history, for better or worse. So with League...
Was League of Legends really the first game to offer, like, first Western game to offer, like, monetary purchases of, like, can be free to play, but then offer monetary purchases? Well, even not necessarily free and free to play to start with. First games to offer in-game purchases. I'm curious as to what games, and when did League of Legends first come out? Hmm. 2009. When did TF2 go free to play? I suppose TF2 went free to play after that. Wait. When did TF2? No, that's when it came out. It didn't go free to play for a while. 2011. Okay, that's the thing. I was gonna say, I remember games found ways to monetize mid-cycle of the like release or development of a game well before like League of Legends. But I guess the idea was that League of Legends was the first fully free-to-play that had microtransactions as the main revenue model. Yeah. Because I just remember games coming out before, I just remember games well before League of Legends having like that kind of that monetization model. Anyway, let's move on. So what's the next video? Mental Checkpoint is credited in over 100 games because of button prompts and mappings. Oh. Why, I'm credited in over 100. What the? Interesting. Would you rather $10,000 in hand right now for free, or fight a bear for 30 minutes for 100,000? Sorry, for 100 million. You don't have to beat the bear. Just survive the 30 minutes. I would just rather have the 10,000 in hand right now. 100 million is like life-changing money, but I would not survive 30 minutes. Maybe 30 seconds? Even then, I'm like, wait, if I, what kind of environment am I in if I'm fighting this bear? Like, I imagined like an arena, a ring, like a very small space. Because I just know I can't beat a bear. Bears are just better than me. It's a smart decision. Okay, good. I was gonna say, I'll take the 10,000, thank you.
Press X to honk.
The woods.
It's
oh,
a button prompt. And
their
games
grounds.
didn't really have
the woods is like their realm of of superiority. Yeah, I'll take the 10,000.
They relied on a list of verbs showing you what you can do by clicking on them. However, since games moved to home consoles, developers found themselves having to communicate which verbs are associated with each button on your controller. And it would be ridiculous for one of the best games that we consider to be the game of the year,
but not the
to
fun
mess
decision.
those up
True,
and show you
very
the wrong
true.
button, or even one that doesn't even exist on your controller. Right? Right? So this has been a thing that bugged me for a long time now, and I have set it as my personal mission to improve the state of button prompts in this industry. So there will be a little gift at the end of the video. Now, even though consoles entered the household in the early 70s-ish, it took a long time until standards were put in place. Most developers were kind of winging it, even in the late 90s, experimenting with nightmare fuel radial menus or aiming with the page up and page down buttons in some shooters. Since console development took priority over computers due to perceived bigger market shares, PC Master Race players usually ended up with console ports of their favorite games. And if you were a PC gamer in the 2000s like I was, you should remember the waves of shit ports we were constantly fed as the only alternative. Since they were developed with a controller in mind, the adaptation to keyboard and mouse was not a main concern for the developers. So PC games that allowed you to actually click on a menu button with your mouse was a rare sight. That's how we're still ending up with games like Magic the Gathering on the iPad asking me to click to continue with my finger, and Dark Souls asking me to press the A button to pillage a corpse on a keyboard. In Sonic Generations, not only does the game ask you
What's wild is that there's plenty of indie games. There's plenty of games like Hat in Time where as soon as I start like using buttons from a certain input device, it just on the fly changes all the inputs to whatever device I'm currently using. There are games made by independent developers that do that instantaneously with no requirements of restarting the game or switching the configuration in the settings. It just works immediately. And then there are games by AAA developers like Elden Ring that don't, or at least, I mean, Dark Souls didn't on PC isn't that old now. And that game was hideous for button prompt stuff. Yeah, even if you're playing with keyboard and mouse, which should be innate or inherent for a game ported to PC, didn't have any PC related button prompts. I'd take the bear, even though I'd probably die. If I do win, I'll get rich and have the bragging rights of I fought a bear. True. That is something to think about. I also didn't question how big the woods were, but I'm also not a fast runner, and bears are really fast. Yeah, my only chance of survival against the bear in that scenario, especially if the bear is like actively hunting me, is if the woods were like massive and I had quite the head start, such that I could either climb, like have time to find a tree to climb and stay up the tree, or there was like a river that I could just like ride the river down for ages, or potentially even like find a spot that, because once I'm in the river, like my scent is relatively masked by the river smells, and once I mean, either just ride that river miles away from the bear, or potentially use a lake or river as a space that is like far enough away that the bear won't be interested in swimming to me. Depends on the type of bear. Like grizzly bears, I'm imagining it was a brown bear or grizzly bear. Grizzly bears aren't super good at climbing trees, as far as I recall. Grizzly bears climb trees. Ah. Never mind then. There's a widespread misconception claiming that while black bears can climb trees, grizzlies cannot. This is simply not true. Grizzly bears can indeed climb trees. Ah! Okay. I was one of those people with the widespread misconception. I was not aware of that. Shit. I was gonna say, I knew that black bears could climb trees, but also black bears are not very aggressive. Black bears are the kind of bears that you can scream at and they'll run away. Whereas grizzly bears, you scream at them, they kill you. But I was under the impression that grizzly bears were not good climbers. But apparently that's not the case. Maybe in the case of me talking about the river stuff, also what's soft image, Zach? I feel like I've seen that name before, but I can't think of what it is. It's yep, the saying is if it's black, fight back, if it's brown, lay down. True. I suppose if that's a possibility, if I could just fake being dead, then maybe I could survive the 30 minutes. That's if you took nicely to grizzly bears. Grizzly bears are just really aggressive. I have heard that if you play dead, grizzly bears will sometimes just leave you alone. It's your best bet surviving a grizzly bear. But apparently, if you're fighting, if this bear is a polar bear, you're fucked. It's just nothing you can do. If you make it a 30-minute fight with a polar bear, there's not really anything you can do. You are going to lose that battle. What happens if you talk nice? Yeah. I'm dead all day, every day. Yeah, same. That's why I'm like, I'll take the 10,000. That's why I created a scenario in which I thought maybe I could, if I had that head start that I could find a tree I could climb. It's not so much about necessarily that the bear, if the not necessarily about climbing the tree so that the bear can't get to me. It's climbing the tree so that I'm in a tree, like, in the middle of a forest. What are the chances a bear will find me? Yeah, polar bear is instant death. Yeah, polar bears, the only thing they say that the only way to get away from a polar bear is to distract it, such that you can, like, slip away behind a wall of ice or something. Slip away behind something. Might offer you a Coke if you're nice. I wish. Like, would you like a Coca-Cola in this tray? Would you like a Sprite cranberry? No, they're Coke. They're not Sprite. Would you like a Coke cranberry? No, what I've heard is that the only way to get away from a polar bear is to take off items of your clothing, take off pieces of your backpack or your clothing or whatever, and lay them out on the floor as you back away from the bear. Because apparently polar bears are incredibly curious, and so if you start dropping shit onto the floor, the polar bears are almost guaranteed to inspect every item that's in between you and the bear. So if you just start dumping stuff onto the floor, you'll be able to distract it. However, to distract it long enough to get away from it, you're quite likely going to need to completely strip, leaving yourself completely naked, or very, very naked, like, you know, much more naked than before, in the fucking North Pole. In an area of, like, you know, -Celsius degrees, or, like, single-digit Fahrenheits. It's that kind of temperature. So yeah, you're dead either way.
You to press a button that does not exist on your keyboard, but the developers locked themselves into that decision by having the button prompt baked into the voice line.
Press the X button here to use the spin dash to break through the rocks and continue on.
I cannot recommend any developer do this, as it creates a ton of problems in the future when it comes to accounting for multiple input methods. And the
you never have a
solution to
character
this is
say
fairly
it.
simple. You have to make your game actively check for what type of input is being used and swap button prompts accordingly. I know this because I've done it myself. In my game Move or Die, we accounted for every major controller brand, and we created the textures and sorted them in such a way that they are easily swappable if players change their input methods on the fly. We also hide the mouse cursor if we detect the controller input and show it again if the mouse moves more than a handful of pixels. I think this is one of the best ways to account for this problem, and we later on added more prompts to account for newly released controllers and even implemented the ability to rebind buttons on controllers, which nowadays is supported at the platform level, be it Steam or Xbox, which is lovely. Sometimes games have a little bit more fun with button prompts, and as a result they keep popping up in various videos and articles due to their humor, like the recontextualized stealth tutorial in Shadow of Mordor or in Portal 2, where you have to press space to say apple. I made a whole video about invisible tutorials and how they relate to button prompts like these.
Oh, I was just in this room.
On the screen right now. However, sometimes the problem goes much deeper than simply showing the wrong button prompt, and for that, I'd like to take a look at the button prompts in Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, the game that I knew of, that I thought of, was
A
Hat in Time.
Game. It has
Hat in Time is perfect
graphics, a gorgeous
for
atmosphere,
its
and
controller
gameplay,
support.
and a masterclass in diegetic mechanics. However, it is an absolute disaster when it comes to controls. Not only does it have inconsistent button prompts, but they are functionally different from one input method to another on the same platform. For example, I'm playing it on PC, and if I use a mouse and keyboard, as it is standard with any PC game, going back from using a cannon requires me to press the interact button, while going back from interacting with a barrel requires me to press a different dedicated back button. And for some reason, backing out of the armory uses the escape button. Those are 3 different buttons I have to memorize in order to simply back out of an action. While if I were to use a controller on the same PC game, all those actions are mapped onto a single convenient button. Just because an input method has more buttons than another doesn't mean that a single action should be spread across multiple buttons without any benefit to the player. Instead, keyboard button mapping should make sense following some agreed upon conventions. For example, escape should be the equivalent of that B button on a controller, or even X would do. Any one button really, because the last thing I need during a heated ship battle is to remember which button allows me to let go of my cannon. If conventions are not followed, you'll end up with a mess of buttons like in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, where they ask you to press escape to accept. I think developers should minimize the difference in advantages between input methods as much as the game design allows, especially in a competitive online multiplayer game. And the troubling thing...
I have come to, in my games, when I'm making a game these days, I have come to try my hardest to minimize the amount of control things you have to do. Like with Laugh Tony Baloney, it was literally just mouse buttons. In fact, was it... No, sorry. It was left click and escape was the only buttons you had to press. And you only actually have to press left click. Escape is only if you want to quit the game. Escape is literally only required to open up... to pause the game with the intention of quitting or doing something. Other than that, it literally everything was left mouse button. What I should have done is made it so that if you click the door of the pizzeria that you're in, that it either pauses the game or opens the menu or exits to menu. That would have been clever. Why did I not think of that until now?
This is one of the smaller problems Sea of Thieves has when it comes to button inconsistencies. And if you'll allow me, and bear with me, I'm about to go on a little tangent about some of the problems and inconsistencies I've noticed in this game, starting with the biggest offender, secondary interact. In Sea of Thieves, players have a regular interact button, let's call it I, and a secondary interact button, and we'll call this one S. If you want to use your lantern to light up a small fire for some fish cooking, you use the interact button. But if you want to light up a flame in a vault using the same lantern, you use the secondary interact. Weird. Same action, different buttons. Very confusing. Now, can you guess which button you can use with your lantern on this flame?
But it's something different again.
Both of them. Since Sea of Thieves is a game about pirates, there are a lot of places where you can store your resources like food and cannonballs. You can put them in a barrel with the interact button, same for when you want to open a chest, but if you want to put something in a storage crate or a rowboat, you have to use secondary interact. Now, can you guess what the interact button does on a storage crate? Does it open it? No, it makes you pick it. You pick it up. I fucking hate this game. A solution to this inconsistency would be...
I know why that is. It's because different containers are used in different ways almost every single time you come across them. You're gonna fist fight a squirrel. Oh, hi Rory, it's me, Truth, and... Oh, nice! Ah! Reggaeton. Well, welcome to the stream. Welcome back, True. Yeah. That's a cool name. I like... If the intention is to conjure like that sort of reggaeton, then you've done that's a really cool name. So you've done a good job.
To ensure that the most common interactions with objects, like opening a crate, are done through the same single button. The important part here is to make sure it's consistent throughout all your game's interactions.
Nickname for my cat.
Any additional actions like
and the cat was from Italy. Oh, awesome!
Could be done by holding down the same button.
That's awesome.
One of the more frustrating inconsistencies is when the game outright
Say hi to your
teaches
cat
you
for
in the
me.
first 5 minutes of the tutorial that you use interact to talk to a character, only to realize that most characters actually use secondary interact to talk to them in the real game. Except for some of them that use the regular interact button. All of this is incredibly confusing, and it can be fairly easily ironed out by taking a good look at the player's affordances and mapping them accordingly to buttons that make sense following agreed upon conventions. That was a very long sentence. However, once that is done, you have to also be careful with how you visually present those button prompts to your players. Now, it's important to have your button prompts be as clear as possible. Some developers try to create them in the same art style as the rest of their game, but sometimes it's to the detriment of the player's understanding. For example, when I first saw this prompt, I thought I had to press the right mouse button, because that's the one that stands out to me. I think it's probably not a good idea to use darker colors to highlight the button you want your players to press. Instead, I think this communicates the correct button in a clearer way. And then there is the consideration of showing a single button or all the buttons with the intended...
I think I with Left Annie Baloney, I used a dark... I think I used... Yeah. The dark one was the one you're supposed to click. Oops.
One highlighted. With this method, players don't have to memorize the symbols on each button you want them to press, since they only need to know where the highlighted button is.
I will say this format for Switch controllers, it's good. It means that no matter what direction, because half the time you could either be playing with a Joy-Con, a little Joy-Con, or you could be playing with the full Switch. And depending on the orientation means the buttons, pardon me, the buttons could be in a different orientation, so A and B might not be the same keys if you're having it sideways, you know? And sometimes you're using up, down, left, and right rather than A, B, X, and Y. Yeah. Pay respects, yeah. I'm sure Regatono was a great kitty. Yeah.
In relationship to the other buttons on the controller. However, you might encounter some problems accounting for the controller orientation on platforms like the Switch. Oh, and if your game has too many things your players can do, instead of creating additional buttons to account for them, you could fix some of those problems with contextual buttons.
Ohio Master I am. Ah, yeah. So she lived a good
Apex
life.
Legends was praised on release for their contextual pinging system, where player communication is boiled down to a single button press that changes outcomes based on context. Pressing it over a piece of gear will notify your teammates of its existence, while pressing it over the enemy will play the appropriate voice line as well as mark them on your teammate's screen. Those were two of the many examples the ping tool can be used for rapid, easy, and efficient communication.
It worked.
Back in the mid-90s, King's Quest and Monkey Island consolidated the outdated list of verbs from previous adventure games into a simple contextual 3-button interface represented by the equivalent of a hand, eyes, and a mouth. The reason these contextual interactions are great is because they rely on agreed-upon conventions, and therefore we already have a basic understanding that using a mouth can be used to talk to someone but also to eat something, and the same applies to the other two. Sea of Thieves kind of has a contextual button where you can press it to cycle through instruments. This is one button that allows you to access multiple instruments with one action. However, these have little to no mechanical use in-game. The thing is, the game never teaches you that this button exists. You have to find it yourself by digging through the key rebinding.
I didn't know there was
What the game does teach you is that you can reach those instruments by navigating a series of nested radial menus, where you can find a nested menu within a nested menu, and it's just
I use the nested menu.
No game should ever do this. It's annoying to navigate even on a controller. In order to push a bit further on this concept and take advantage of contextual buttons,
it's fascinating because I never really noticed how how awful the controls are.
And through a little script, I made certain buttons cycle through certain tools. I have set them up in such a way that they are bundled up in pairs that make contextual sense.
Ohio?
For example, if my ship took some damage, I can press B to bring up my bucket and throw some water out, and I can press B again to bring up my wood board so I can patch up those holes. If I keep pressing B, it simply cycles between those two tools. If I'm looking for a treasure, I can press C to bring out my compass and press C again to take out my shovel. I hope you see how this is way more useful. I have one of these clusters for every scenario the game throws at me, be it fishing, combat, riddles, so on and so forth. So yes, I use custom scripts to make my life easier. Now, is this cheating? I'm sure you're gonna let me know in the comments below, and we can figure this out together when I'll inevitably make a video about anti-cheat. Until then, the conclusion is that this little modification to how buttons work in Sea of Thieves made my gameplay experience significantly better, and it was done with the type of button that is already supported natively in the game. However, the game does not allow you to natively create such clusters of tools other than the already provided instruments one, and I really wish it did. But enough about Sea of Thieves. We're approaching the end of the video, and I promised a little gift, didn't I? When I was working on Move or Die and I got to the point in development where I had to create button prompts, I noticed that there were no good online packs of button prompts, at least not comprehensive free ones, so I proceeded to make my own for every major controller out there and release them online for free. Some of the footage in the beginning of this video was from games that used those button prompts I made, including games like Mega Man Legacy, Outer Wilds, Hunt Showdown, A Hat in Time, Slay the Spire, even
Hat in Time was one of them,
among other tens of games mentioned in the README file that comes with the pack. So if you ever find yourself in need to add button prompts to your game and you don't want to spend hours creating and maintaining them, you can simply go to this link and download this pack. It includes prompts for every platform you can think of, from Xbox to PlayStation and Switch, covering all relevant generations and even VR controllers, including illustrations for the controllers themselves at such an angle that you can lay out all the buttons including the triggers without using separate images for them, like this one. I hate it when games do that. The keyboard prompts come in both light and dark variants, with a few blank options if you'd like to use your own font to make new ones. There are also vector sources including for all the prompts, and the entire pack is in the public domain under Creative Commons 0, which means that you can use them in both personal and commercial projects completely free, even without crediting me. I also tried to design these prompts in a visually neutral language that should fit most art styles, and I'm hoping that this way I can save you and other developers some headache and time, allowing you guys to focus on the more important parts of game development. Here is the link again, so you don't have to rewind the video. Completely free, with more details in the text file included. My little gift for you. So this
honestly, I'm probably gonna use that. The Creative Commons 0, so I don't even have to worry about crediting mental checkpoint.
Prompts for
but
way too
yeah,
long. And if you
fucking
end up
prompts
using
to
these
mental
prompts,
checkpoint.
make sure to put them to good use, because I'm hoping that if you do so, you'll be inspired to add some value of your own out there that other developers get to use sometime in the future. And if enough of us do that, we'll make this industry a little less shit. So let's do that. Oh, would you look at that? It's the end of the video. So I have a question for you. Yes, you, the one who is watching this video and is doubtful if I'm addressing you or not. You know, when YouTubers
that's a song
do
that would work.
annoying thing where they try to get
Most people know that song. Yeah, freaking awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Nathan, if you're still in the stream. Because I will 100% use that. Not having to make my own prompts. Freaking brilliant. Pardon me. Oh, this is the... Yeah, this is the fan game. The Unawoken Demons. This is one of the people who joined the Discord recently. I'll give a sneaky like. Mentioned this as a fan game they're making.
We're always free to choose. To believe what we want to believe.
I think it's made in Roblox.
But when you step back, when you really look at where you've been, and the things you've done, your past will come to devour you.
Interesting. But yeah, anyway, cool mod. Pink guy in Half-Life 2. Oh my god.
Have you seen it like this? Have you seen this?
Oh my god, imagine.
The urge to reproduce, the suppression field on Wallace breed.
Bring all my business back!
Dr. Kleiner said you'd be coming this way.
Gordon's just like...
Hey, boss.
What's the meaning of
Have
this?
you seen a prank?
Who are you?
Have you seen a prank, please?
Get in here.
Oh my god.
There he is. We've got to get out of here. Maybe we still have.
I'm just imagining fucking. Just imagining fucking pink guy running around smacking metro cops and getting them angry. Fucking seeing pink guy running from Strider gunfire. That's an image that I'll not get out of my head for a long time. Oh, hey, Mecca. What's the pink man doing in Half-Life? It's a good question. Spect butt. Spect that butt. Forcing myself to play with toys. Oh.
In a world where the forces of evil are growing stronger, and the very planet we call home is under threat,
I'm assuming the time stamp was intentional.
Diabolical plan. Ryan is determined to completely fill the world's oceans with trash from his mystery boxes.
Oh yes, I will not rest until every inch of this planet is covered in plastic waste. No one can stop me, and no one will stand in my way.
I'm just your average penguin. Well, except for the fact that I'm about to take on the biggest challenge of my life. You see, there's a guy named Ryan from Ryan's World, and he's trying to fill up the ocean completely with plastic trash. But I'm not alone in this fight.
Pinkman was
I've got
always
some pretty powerful friends on my side.
Molly,
that was a mod I'd play it, yeah.
From WWE.
I love a reimagining of Half-Life 2 where there's just this, where perhaps one of many new things in the game is that there's just this character that is like the ultimate nonsense character, constantly undercutting serious moments in the game. Like a pink guy, you're just like, everything's so serious and like depressing, and then you walk out and there's just this guy who just it's just running around smacking metro cops and like pulling this small army of metro cops behind him, and he like runs off, and that leaves you free to roam the area because there's no more metro cops. And then he just fucking shows up in Breen's fucking office. It's like, hello there. It's like a jester that makes things crazy. Just when you think things are getting serious and there's like an emotional serious point, a jester shows up and fucks with the main characters. Yeah, that would be really funny. Yeah, Ryan? How dare Ryan?
Steve, a master of strategy and survival, like Adam, a sorcerer of great power, and their trusty pineapple helicopter join forces with an unlikely hero, a penguin, to stop Ryan and his evil plan to fill the salty oceans up with garbage.
Plastic in the ocean is bad. Ryan, you may have strength in numbers, but you're no match for me. Let's see if you can handle this smackdown.
I've faced zombies and dragons, Ryan. Your minions are nothing compared to what I've seen. Bring it on.
Ryan, your greed has blinded you. You think you can control the world, but you will fall. The power of friendship will be your downfall.
That's a skill of fly. Especially considering my AG classes I'm doing composing recently.
I will kill them and their families and their kids and their families' kids.
In this epic battle between good and evil, the fate of the planet hangs in the balance.
This was made 2 weeks ago?
Will the heroes be able to overcome Ryan's evil plan? Or will the world be forever lost in a sea of plastic waste?
Let's move out, team. We have a world to save.
This is the story of our heroes who risked everything to save the planet.
But we won't give up.
Okay, let's move on. This is really strange. Wait. I gotta read the chat. Is this video a video react video, Rory? These streams are kind of a mixture of people. My intention is for people to post memes and stuff, but it's really a reaction stream. where we just react to whatever. I think Rorius just came up with the perfect comedic relief character for Half-Life 3. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you have something that you think would be perfect for the stream, post it on the channel Reddit. It's linked in the description, r/Rorius. Because the way that these work, the way that all of these work is I just react to what people post in time order, so as to not give anyone like special, what's the word? No one feels like their videos are worth less than others. No favoritism. That's the one. Yeah, I never used Reddit until we made this subreddit. I made a Reddit specifically for these streams. Low-cost humanoid robot. Apologies, my nose is really blocked for some reason. Is that XP running in the background? Looks like Windows XP in the background there. Pardon me. Yeah. There's like a mixture of, I would say there's a mixture of game development stuff, general science stuff, memes, and like skit stuff, like video game skits and TF2 skits and stuff like that. Yeah. That's cool. Very cool. Oh god. There we go. This is gorgeous. Half-Life 2 style menu and Half-Life Alyx. Duh. Interesting. The thing is, the Half-Life... I don't mind the Half-Life Alyx menu. It would just be nicer if it was animated. I've been playing Half-Life Alyx recently. I did have... Very temporarily there, I had a very red nose. I've just passed this bit in my playthrough. Yeah, not quite up to this part yet. Oh my god. Those freaking head crab bastards. Oh my god. You submitted it? Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, and in my current playthrough of Half-Life Alyx, I'm taking the gnome with me. I'm only a few chapters in, but, oh? Why that as the final... Why that as the final animated background? Interesting, but weird. How was I saying? Right, yeah. One of the things that I'm doing with my replay of Half-Life Alyx is getting all the achievements I missed in the first time. And something I decided I would do is I'd go for the... I'm going for the gnome achievement. going for that gnome, carrying the gnome right through the game. I thought when I started doing the gnome achievement, I thought that I'd be able to put it in my wrist compartment. No, you cannot put the gnome in your wrist compartment in Half-Life Alyx. You have to carry it by hand. You basically literally have to hold a gnome for the whole length of the game. Gnome. You've been gnomed. I'm not a elf. I'm a gnome, and you've been gnomed. Yeah, like, there are points where you can, like, well, let's just say Half-Life Alyx kind of requires both hands to play. Like, when you're shooting something and you run out of ammo, you need to eject the clip you have, grab ammo from over your shoulder, and put it into the gun, and re-chamber the first bullet. You can't do that if you have a gnome in your hand. So you have to throw the gnome down, grab the ammo, go for it. Gnome is the answer to the problem. Yeah, I think I'm gonna struggle to maintain the gnome in the later parts of Half-Life Alyx. I haven't got to the proper, like, gunfights yet. I've only been fighting head crabs and head crab zombies. I'm gonna be so, like, with the the fucking gnome. Try crawling around in Half-Life Alyx. Say, smash that like I smashed your mom last night. Anyway, me walking down the stairs without my morning coffee. Throw the gnome at enemies, yeah. It might be a one-hit kill. I wish you could just swing the gnome at things.
Julian! I don't know where I felt like I could get a little drink around here, do you, bud?
Yeah. He's so drunk. He beat Half-Life 2 without the HEV suit. Oh, interesting.
Usually when you play Half-Life 2, you don't exactly think how much the HEV suit helps you in combat. Because of it, you can sprint, allowing you to reposition faster, and zoom in and out, which helps you with aiming at longer distances, and so much more. But really, what if you would take it away and roll without it? Hello everybody, it's me, Not Negev here, and today we will see if I can beat Half-Life 2 without the HEV suit. So, let me get the rules out of the way before we proceed. So, the game is set on hard, the challenge starts on D1 train station 06, I am allowed to use any and all movement techniques, and I am allowed to use console commands in cases where I literally cannot progress, and to add extra spice, I will be playing Half-Life 2 Mirrored to mess up my muscle memory because, spoiler alert, I played this game quite a lot. And without out of the way, let us commence forth. My adventure starts in the backyard of Dr. Kleiner's lab, where I continue down the path and meet my good old friend Barney. He tells me how much I need the HEV suit.
Oh, Mirrored is weird. Mirrored throwing my brain immediately.
He leaves me a crowbar, which is going to be my primary weapon in the first couple of chapters of the game. Bunny hopping forward, I make my way towards the train station and discover that the local police are harassing the citizens.
Half-Life
As an
Ohio.
upstanding and protective fanboy deal with them, resulting in my first gun, the pistol. It's not exactly up to my standards, especially in hard, but it will have to do for now. I engage the corrupt policemen in gunfights and flee into the canals, where I can swear that I heard how they off themselves because they didn't move out of the way of an incoming train. No wonder that people were defeated in 7 hours if the individuals like these walk the earth. At the end of the canals, and after a bit of a struggle of the ladder, really, what was wrong with it? I met a Romanian who tells me that you should like and subscribe to me and join my Discord server. Also, I love the angle that those two were watching the TV. Really nice. And here we see the first problem of not having the HEV suit. I have no HUD, which means that I can switch weapons, even if I wanted to. The only way to get rid of the weapon that you don't want to use is to shoot out all the ammo that you have, and HL2 is pretty generous with it, especially on hard, meaning that will take some time. Additionally, what became really apparent really quickly, lack of armor really hurts, and furthermore, I won't be capable of using certain tricks to an extent that I would like to, like grenade boosts, jumps and so on, which is going to hurt, but not for now. For now, the game is pretty easy, since this is literally the tutorial for combat. I got in front of the station 12, and seeing that it was raided by the police, I decided to just ignore it and prop climb it across the wall, as the police in this game would never raid or capture anyone in this universe without a good reason. They are probably cooking meth or something. Running low on ammo, I managed to destroy the other policeman and solve the puzzle, although I'm unsure if Valve intended me to solve it that way. In the very next level, I am introduced to brand new spanking combine tech, a helicopter, which doesn't do much health damage surprisingly. Not wanting to have it on my back more, I prop climbed to the end of this section and continue towards the crowd's favorite, Manhack Matt.
I was gonna say, the fact that he can't change weapons really amplifies the difficulty of this. Like, whoa.
I proceeded to leave to fend for his own, of course only after stealing his supplies. Here, the most fun to fight an enemy makes his first appearance, the aforementioned Manhacks.
Holy shit, look at that. Manhacks are just so fun to fight. Look at the amount of fun I'm having. Can't you see me smiling? I'm so happy to fight them. I became a Finnish person.
After roleplaying as your dad coming back from a gentleman's club,
yeah, mirrored Half-Life 2 is so strange.
Which are totally dead. No, not really, no. The MP7, the basic weapon of the Combine, is not going to be seen much in this run. It has a cool feature of having double barrels, where the lower one shoots grenades from, and aside from its sounds that could be described as, ear rape, which is really fun, especially in the time when I have to shoot out all 250 something rounds of its ammo. It's not exactly no.
I've always hated the fact that, that's why I never use it. The SMG in Half-Life 2 is so fucking loud.
Worthy in any capacity. With that, I reached the most famous set piece of this chapter, this sewer thingy with crap ton of exploding barrels and manhacks coming from all directions. I, as a brave and noble person, decided to just duck in the water and wait out the danger. Also, did you know that your pistol can fire underwater? No? Well, now you know. After solving ultra complicated puzzle involving physics, I reached Station 6, which is currently shelled by war crime canisters containing headhumpers. Of course I can't be bothered to take them all down, so I do what I always do here and just run past them. At the end of the section, a nice lady gives me a mud skipper and I'm finally done with this goddamn chapter. Water Hazard's gimmick is that we have a vehicle that you can drive around in, and that's about it.
Yeah.
As much as I would like to say something substantial about it, there's nothing much to go on about. I'll still try though. Skipping Station 7, I reached the funny puzzle and continued towards my drive, this time around with lots of cops along the way. Wanted to give me, I think, a speeding ticket was likely. Honestly, I get that it's supposed to be an oppressive 1984 regime style, but sending entire departments just because someone trespassed into someone's property is a little bit excessive in my opinion. After reaching the Combine...
Yeah, I'll leave that there. People who want to see the whole thing can watch the rest. But, yeah, an interesting challenge. And I kind of want to do videos a bit like this in the future as well. That's something I kind of want to shift towards in terms of videos. Like, in terms of streams, just doing straight Let's Plays is still going to be the main focus. Oh, hey Sly. Welcome to the stream. Kermit the Frog in Half-Life 2. Oh.
Hold on, there must be some mistake. Don't you know me? I'm Kermit the Frog.
I'm Alex Vance.
Hi, I'm Kermit.
Man of few words, aren't you?
I'm a frog. Hey, what's going on?
I'll watch this whole thing.
I hope you appreciate that I'm doing all my own stunts. What's the matter with you? You gotta be crazy chasing me halfway across the country. Why are you doing this to me?
The resistance has shown it is willing to accept a new leader.
Well, thanks anyway, but I'm really pretty happy where I am. Now, we're about to embark on a potentially dangerous mission. There could be physical violence, there could be gunplay, and there's the slightest chance that somebody might even get killed.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Are you sure you have everything you need?
Oh my god. Ah, brilliant. Oh. Anyway, TF2 was a nature documentary. Excuse me?
The Badlands, home to some of the strangest creatures to ever walk this earth. In our previous episodes, we've explored these arid lands and examined the bizarre culture of bots. However, today we'll be looking at some species we may call more uncivilized. In order to do this, we must look into a domain that greatly differs from the typical deserts of New Mexico and travel to their polar opposites. Once serving as the battlegrounds in the Great Gravel Wars, these bodies of water have been reclaimed by nature and now house marine life. This documentary will celebrate these few remaining bastions of wildlife and reveal what we must preserve to ensure people and nature thrive. Join me as we observe these fascinating aquatic animals in their purest and most innocent forms. Welcome to the wondrous world of water. Welcome to the Great Blue.
They should have spelled it BLU.
Water is a scarcity
like the blue team.
in the dusty plains of New Mexico, but a couple reservoirs may still be found. Here is one of these oases, Two Fort. Accidentally built upon a massive freshwater spring, the rudimentary tunnel systems are flooded with the Earth's lifeblood. Unfortunately, the industrial nature of human influence proves to be inescapable. The surrounding forts have leaked lead into the groundwater, contaminating it and making it near uninhabitable. And yet, life goes on. The Pyroshark, scientific name Adere Salacamorpha.
No thoughts, head empty.
Name, stupid. It is an evolutionary anomaly, a crossbreed between a common shark and the single brain-celled organism known as pyromanes.
Yeah.
Unlike most species of shark, this particular one has evolved to live within freshwater environments. Curiously enough, there are no signs of any biological adaptations that would allow the pyroshark to process fresh water. The current running biological theory is that this unlikely crossbreed is simply too stupid to realize it should not be alive. This particular pyroshark is in its first stages of infancy. The parents are nowhere to be found. But not to worry. The pyroshark is a precocial species, and a particularly violent one at that. It is born with all the tools necessary for it to survive. A foolish tourist wanders near the edge, ignoring all safety precautions, a decision he will soon sorely regret. He slips and falls into the depths below. Sensing a disturbance in the waters, the pyroshark makes its way towards its next target. Swift kill. But wait, it seems the pyroshark is not alone in its hunt. A local school of piranha scouts contest the shark for its meal.
Scouts.
Small yet deadly, these piranha scouts will attack in groups. The leader of the pack gets a swift first strike.
It's not as accurate as Ancient Aliens.
Swing and a miss. The alpha piranha dodges and weaves, expertly evading the
more
shark's
realistic,
attacks.
yeah.
The rest of the piranhas, seeing their leader effortlessly dance around the shark, begin to gain the confidence to approach their next meal. But suddenly, a lucky strike by the pyroshark. Like a pack of schoolyard bullies, the piranhas disperse after seeing their leader fall. The pyro shark barely comes out victorious. He retreats back into his cove to heal
I like the
and to fight another day.
Bouncing in the water.
We now leave the troubled waters of Twofold to a more serene marine ecosystem. In the temperate lands, far to the east of the Badlands, we come across a tropical island. Though not completely untouched by human influence, this lush bay is rife with plant life and animal life alike. The beaches of Banana Bay remain relatively untouched year-round, but during the summer months, the island receives visitors. The turtling engineer, a species remarkable in its intelligence, far surpassing that of the pyro shark. They arrive from deep within the depths of the ocean, colonizing the beaches quickly and efficiently. While the turtle engineer itself is a rather soft and defenseless target, the turtle has evolved and developed an ingenious defense mechanism. A protective perimeter of sentry guns, dispensers, and teleporters is rapidly established along the coast. These turtles are territorial creatures and will guard the new lands with an iron fist. At first, it is not clear why these turtle engineers have to be so protective of their territory. The native denizens of the islands are not particularly aggressive towards adult turtles. In fact, it is quite the other way around. The turtles are the ones who pose a threat to the island's inhabitants. Any monkeys unfortunate enough to step too close to the beach are met with extreme prejudice. Venturing deeper into the makeshift colony, we soon see the reason for their nest of defenses. Ah,
oh my
the
God.
miracle of life. The secluded alcoves of Banana Bay provide the perfect environment for the engineers to usher in the next generation. Once the turtle engineers have finished their business, they depart from the island. The buildings are left behind, with the turtles putting full trust in their machines to protect their eggs. Over the course of the next 3 months, the buildings will break down. However, before the buildings completely degrade, the turtle engineers' eggs will have hatched. Under the watchful protection of the centuries, the next generation of turtles will have made it safely into the sea.
Don't have human rights.
And of course, we would be remiss not to mention the brackish waters closer to the mainland. On this particular peninsula, a species of seabird known as Amoria ruskinia thrive. These nocturnal, semi-aquatic birds live and die by the ocean. The sea is the provider of their sustenance, supplying a constant stream of slightly lead-poisoned mackerel directly to their doorstep. Amoria ruskinia live in tandem with their urban environments, roosting on man-made piers and using the elevation to help them dive. However, fish is not the only source of food for these birds. Occasionally, a rare treat comes
don't
along.
identify as humans, therefore they
An
don't have
endangered spy crab foolishly
right.
peeks his head above the waterline.
Ah.
Long thought to be extinct in
I
the
love
wild,
the
capturing
crab
one on
spy.
camera is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Unfortunately, we cannot take any action in order to preserve the integrity of nature. Another component of the bird's diet is food occasionally handed to them by humans. A flock of avid bird watchers gaze upon the birds from a distance. As mentioned earlier, Amoria ruskinia have adapted to their urban surroundings. Making the most out of the local tourists is one of these adaptations. Resident wildlife officers have attempted to deter humans from feeding the birds in the past, but the attempts were unsuccessful. Speak of the devil, it seems one of the tourists has chosen to ignore the warnings. We will now observe what happens when humanity comes into contact with the wild. An alliance most poetic, paralleling stories of medieval falcon tamers, an olive branch of civilization extended towards the regal beast. Oh dear, I don't think this quite fits into our G rating. Charlie, pull the plug, quickly, Charlie!
Oh my God. They killed that man. The birds killed him with fish. Gun Freeman meets with his agent. Is that not G-Man? Is G-Man not his agent?
You see what I'm doing here, Gordo? That's right, I'm dancing to the brainy vibes you're putting out. Ladies love nerds if I'm to believe graphic t-shirts, and I do. They're pretty much all I
Watch life
read.
as a
You've got a hot load of talent,
Boca-blind.
and I'm gonna help you spray it all over some faces. I'm really excited to be working with you. I have a lot of respect for what you do here. Is there something in your throat?
No, why?
Ah, no reason, and we already signed you to a contract?
Yep.
I am going down hard for this.
What?
I mean, you're totally not a freak, and I can work with this. Let's spew some idea chunks.
Okay, I'm imagining a story-driven game. I narrate the cutscenes.
Oh, yeah. Love that idea, Freebird. Let's do the complete opposite of it. You never talk ever under any circumstances.
Well, how will that work?
You'll be the strong and silent type. Speak softly and carry a big stick. That's what that president guy said, and he has his face on a mountain. Of course, in this case, by big stick, I mean crowbar, and by speak softly, I mean speak never, because you sound like Mickey Mouse raping a eunuch. Okay, I feel like I've offended you. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the reset button on this meeting and start from scratch. Starting now.
Stick.
You see what I'm doing here, Gordo? That's right, I'm dancing to the brainy vibes you're putting out.
Are we really going through this whole thing again?
Is there something in your throat?
You just can't get past it. Yeah. As soon as he started talking like that, I was like, yeah, this is the reason why he's a silent protagonist. His voice turns out to be like like nuts. Okay, wait, what's this? I definitely heard kid. I wait, I def heard kids lol. I don't know what that means. But anyway.
What's the advice you give to your younger self?
Spend less time with the kids.
Spend less?
Less time with the kids. They just waste your time.
I can't believe a father would say spend less time with your kids.
No, dickheads.
What's he saying?
Dickheads.
Dickheads.
Thank you, Simon, for your interpretation.
Andy, what don't you understand about why he's
Spend
just...
less time with dickheads. I was absolutely blown away. I thought you were about to blow me away. I thought maybe it was going to be really honest. Like, don't believe the bullshit. And you know what the next sentence made sense? They waste a lot of your time.
Oh wow, that's like an Australian accent for you. All right, let's reset this one as well.
What do you guys want?
Let me get a fratte motete. And then let me get a Trenta pinkity drinkity. Trenta...
Frinkity pinkity dinky and a fratte mate.
What the hell?
A fratte mate and a frinkity pinkity.
Aww.
Is that a pink drink and a decent cafe au lait? Fratte mate. Latte mate. I don't think we got one of those. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My first time. A pinkity dinkity. Drink a pinkity dinkity. Yes.
Okay, it's gonna be 5:45
Thank you.
Aww. This first time. Oh. Kids are pounding on the inside of your truck. Or your trunk. Huh. It's not, no. You shouldn't admit to that. Allo2 VR mod 1 finger salute achievement. Oh. Nice.
See?
Yeah, I think it's I would love to play Half-Life 2 in VR as well. But I think that without the gloves, it would be a much more tedious endeavor. Come on, Elite is buying a new console. I kid.
fine.
Bruh.
I am dead. Not a big surprise. Hey, what the fuck?
Unrealistic. PS2's never fail.
Fuck you!
PS2's like one of the most reliable consoles in the world. Our PS2 still works. I have a PS2 that was bought in like 2001 or 2002. Still works to this day. Fucking 20 years later. And we use that thing a lot. We thrashed that thing. We took it places. We like took it to friends' houses and took it on trips and travel and stuff like that. PS2s are like fucking unbreakable. Our PS1 broke. Our PS1 like we used it too much and it stopped working about 10 years ago. PS2 still running strong all these years later. Bruh, 2001, that console as old as me. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, I think we got it in 2002, but still, yeah, that thing, it's amazing. Basically the XP of consoles, exactly, yes. It is indestructible. Also, hey Summer! Welcome to the stream. Ohio, I live in. Hell it is.
Smoke weed every day.
Ouch.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. That is so close to what it was actually like for me. This character in the game is, I think, if they bought it when it first came out, they are like a year younger than I am. This character, this fictional character. Because I believe the PS2 came out in 2000, and this character said their mom bought it for them when they were 5, so they must have been born in 1995 at the earliest. If they bought it the same year that I got it, then they would be 1997, which is 3 years younger than me. Yeah, like I was fucking what, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I was 8. 8? Yeah, 6, 7, 8. I would have been 7 or 8 when we got the PS2. Yeah, it was yesterday telling you about PS5. Been playing PS2 this whole time. Hey, everyone here, everyone is welcome here. I have plenty of furry friends who are great people. Simo being one of them. Simo is a great friend. Yeah, to you too. I mean, it's fair enough, I suppose.
Nah, it's probably nothing.
It's just vibes, yeah.
Sorry, but we're out of PS5. People buying it like crazy.
No! I just, like, a few weeks back, saw the first ever PS5 on a shelf. On a shelf in a store. It's taken, like, over a year. When did the PS5 come out? Wait, PS5. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to look it up on Wikipedia. Wiki. Oh my god, tell me. 2021. Oh my god, like a year and a half. It took a year and a half from the release of the PS5 for me to see it on a shelf for the first time. That's
Maybe
wild.
I wanna buy other console.
Not me.
No! No!
You what? What the f?
No! I saved that first and grab it first.
They're gonna break it, aren't they?
Let out! Release this!
You will never get this. You will never get this. La 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 la.
I think there is only one solution about that conflict. We're gonna fight.
Very yes!
I like that they're just like...
Guys, you won't gonna believe. I went to magazine attacking some boxes and find another PS5. What the hell?
PS5s are that big? Yep. Perfectly accurate to real, to real size. No, PS5s are big, but they're not that
Why
big.
don't you stop them?
Just the dude's just really small. Yeah.
Give fuck, bitches! Later!
Thank you, come again. Well, that was weird. Yeah, friendly combines? When? I know, right? Because Wednesdays.
Like, God damn it, the door again. Still playing on a 4x3 screen. Yeah. He can't even play it because he doesn't have the right TV. He still needs a modern TV to play it. Alright, I think it's a draw. Cutest chubby cats of YouTube competition. Oh my god. So cute. So cute. Oh, we're actually we're nearly at the top of this morning's videos. But I know there's more stuff that's been posted, so we'll refresh the page once we get to the top. Twisted Metal TV series. I briefly saw this morning as I was scrolling down. Like, what the heck? I love the Twisted Metal games. Well, I love Twisted Metal Black and Twisted Metal. I played the Twisted Metal PS3 game. But I haven't really seen or heard much of Twisted Metal since. They're making a TV show out of it. We'll see. We'll see what I think. This could be cool, or it could be terrible.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
You think Coconut won that? That's fair. I can't make my mind up about which cat is the cutest chubby one. Interesting. I need to see more. I need to see more to know if I would enjoy that. I'm gonna want to see what the setup is, like what the context is, and how they achieve episodes of it, because if they make like a series, it's like a 6-episode or something, or a 10-episode like thing where they go through a whole round of the Twisted Metal competition, and they have a Calypso character who is like the Wishmaster who offers them all a wish. And they all have like and the characters are relatively, for want of a better word, twisted. I kind of dig the vibe. Right, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm gonna need to see more to fully determine my opinion on that. But I'm cautiously optimistic. Because I love the Twisted Metal games, but my favorite ones are the ones where like, usually, I mean, the game itself, what I like about the game is every character has... Pardon me, Jesus. What I really love about Twisted Metal, the games, is that every character has, like, a motivation. They all have a wish that they want to fulfill. But, of course, naturally, Calypso, with the Wishmaster, the competition owner, I kind of dog. Yeah. Whenever he grants them their wish, it always is not quite what they hoped for, and it always is like kind of messes things up. So I'm curious as to how they achieve a Twisted Metal series. Anyway, important video for 3D modelers, and whether there's going to be like a main character or if they're going to focus on all the characters, because it could be interesting. Thoughts on Sweet Tooth? I mean, he looks pretty accurate to the problem with Sweet Tooth is he changes in every game. Well, he's slightly different in a lot of the games. That depiction of Sweet Tooth is more like his Twisted Metal Head On or Twisted Metal the PS3 version, where he's kind of like a chubby dude in a clown costume. Oh, hey, Fireboy. Yeah. The one that I like, my favorite depiction of Sweet Tooth, is when he's the kind of buff dude, but he has the fireball literally strapped to his head. That's my favorite instance of Sweet Tooth. I like Twisted Metal Black. That's my absolute favorite of the series. Anyway, important video oopsies for 3D modelers. N-gons or quads?
Triangles, N-gons, subdivisions, and lots of quad activists. Yep, it always seems like people are on a certain side of the equation when it comes to this stuff. Here's the truth. We use different techniques for different workflows. My background is in mathematics with a specific focus on graph theory, and during my undergraduate
Black had the
studies,
chubby Sweet
this
Tooth?
was
No, Black had this one. We Twisted Metal Black Sweet Tooth. He like looked like this. I mean, there's these. It's hard to say really. The pictures of him. This is the Twisted Metal Head On. The one in Head On had him like being chubby. Like which came out shortly afterwards. He was like this. But in Twisted Metal Black, he's frequently depicted as being like kind of buff. Like if I zoom in on that, open image, a new tab. I mean, it's hard to say, I suppose. He could be chubby there actually as well. it's hard to say. I suppose this picture he's kind of a bit, but he's not like super chubby. Like if I go Head On, let's see if I can get the full picture. See that like this is the version that this looks more like the version that but this looks more like the Twisted Metal Black one. See, this is how I always remember him in Twisted Metal Black. But Twisted Metal Head On, there's a picture of in-game Sweet Tooth from Head On, where he's this big old chunky dude. Where the hell's a picture of the Head On Twisted Metal Sweet Tooth? What the heck? Is this it? Yeah, like this is Twisted Metal Head On Sweet Tooth. He's got a big old gut and stuff like that. Whereas in Twisted Metal Black, he kind of looks like he looked less fat and more buff in Twisted Metal Black. Yeah. Sweet Tooth's been hitting the gym. Yeah. But yeah, he changes a lot depending on which game you're in. Some of the games he has fire on his head. Some of them he just seems to have like, I mean he's usually depicted with fire on his head. But yeah, sometimes he looks like this, like full on like classic clown attire. Sometimes it's just the face. See, this is what I swear this is what he looks like in Head On. But I could be mistaken. Yeah, sometimes the face looks more like that, and sometimes it's more like that, with the like broken teeth. This is him in one of the cutscenes, I think. In one of the games, I forget which one. Yeah. Anyway, enough of looking at a clown.
My favorite class is because it is literally the foundation of how 3D polygon modeling software.
Yeah. It must be said, like even when he's in his chubby mode, he's still like a strong chubby dude. Like he still looks like he's like a wrestler, but he's also chubby. Yeah, he's both kind of chubby and kind of ripped. Yeah. Been eating some sweets lately. Yeah. So yeah, the version from the trailer, this version of Sweet Tooth that they just showed in that trailer, looks quite a bit different. Samoa Joe, apparently. Apparently the wrestler, Samoa Joe, is going to be playing Sweet Tooth. Let's see if I can find a picture of him again. Oh my god, where the fuck? I saw a picture of him a second ago. There it is. Yeah. I don't know. I like his clown mask. I like the mask. And they've done a good job to make it look a lot like the mask from the games. With the red hair sticking out the sides as well. His head's just not on fire, that's all. They just set his head on fire and then he's perfect.
Is built. And trust me, after studying that stuff enough, I have a very, very intuitive understanding of how everything works in polygon modeling software. Now, this isn't to say you need any math to understand the best workflows.
The voice is going to be dubbed. Of course, I would hope so, because he's got a very specific voice, and I kind of hope they, I kind of hope they use a voice similar to the voice in Twisted Metal Black.
But in this video, I want to break down once and for all when and where certain workflows are the most beneficial. Now, let's hop right onto the Ngon bandwagon to start. Ngons get a really bad rep, especially from new 3D artists who aren't quite sure where they fit into a certain workflow. Here's the deal. Using Ngons on any kind of curved surface or deforming object is generally going to cause problems, especially if you use the mesh in a software that requires quad-based topology. In fact, some software can't even read Ngons properly, and your mesh would need to be properly retopologized. However, you can indeed use Ngons in plenty of hard surface modeling situations, including the following. Number 1, when you're designing concept art where the final goal is simply a clean render. Number 2, game assets. Number 3, when you're trying to quickly model and save time. And number 4, for non-destructive workflows where iteration is key. Now, the concept design part is pretty straightforward. Generally, concept artists only care about the final render. That's it. Shading problems, artifacts, crappy, messy topology, it literally does not matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because the final output is a render. In these cases, the most important elements to focus on are the elements of visual design. There are plenty of design principles I've discussed in previous videos, so if you want to check those out, I'd recommend viewing my channel and previous videos. Basically, when I'm working on concept art, I care about the visuals, functionality, and ultimately how the final image looks. In these cases,
my shoes are untied. One second, I've just looked at, while I was listening to what he was saying, I saw there was a version of the ending of
Sweet Tooth.
There's a version of the ending of the PS3 Twisted Metal. It has to be said, the PS3 Twisted Metal also has
boys and girls, tonight I found
Sweet Tooth is way more buff. Sweet Tooth is way more buff in the PS3 Twisted Metal as well. But I'm sure, I'm convinced that it started with the Twisted Metal Black design, and then Twisted Metal, the PS3 version, the reboot, had him way buffer.
Crash on the side of the road.
One second.
I've killed over the years, but her.
Hold up.
She was the only one who ever murders. Oh, boys and girls. She didn't.
Showing him from the back.
I had saved her.
Come on.
Fighter.
I mean, he's never fully buff. He's always got a little bit of meat on him. Anyway, Ohio Master, please do not spam the chat. I will have to remove messages otherwise. I'll have to block you on the chat otherwise. I'm sorry. Please don't spam. Yeah. Any concerns for your mental health? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. You always heard that Ngons were the devil in 3D modeling, but apparently not. Yeah, to be fair, I wasn't listening super close. 1 second. I'm gonna repeat some of this because
start. Ngons get a really bad rep, especially from new 3D artists who aren't quite sure where they fit into a certain workflow. Here's the deal. Using Ngons on any kind of curved surface or deforming object is generally going to cause problems, especially if you use the mesh in a software that requires quad-based topology. In fact, some software can't even read Ngons properly, and your mesh would need to be properly retopologized. However, you can indeed use Ngons in plenty of hard surface modeling situations, including the following. Number 1.
Oh. I was like, what even is an Ngon? Anything over a quad, it says. Right. I can't say I've ever worked with Ngons.
When you're designing concept art where the final goal is simply a clean render, it literally does not matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because the final output is a render. In these cases, the most important elements to focus on are the elements of visual design. There are plenty of design principles I've discussed in previous videos, so if you want to check those out, I'd recommend viewing my channel and previous videos.
Oh, I
Basically,
see.
when I'm working
Banished to the Shadow Realm, I have been.
Visuals,
killed 100 kids with that 2001 Honda Civic I have.
Looks. In these cases, I don't worry about topology at all. I run booleans everywhere and
but yeah, please don't spam.
Quickly iterate through my designs. Yes, you'll probably end up getting some nasty shading problems and occasionally
otherwise the mods will have to
those are best isolated
mute you for a while.
Completely. Plus, since we're
you
only
going
for a
perfect.
clean render,
well,
we
thank
can
you.
always paint out certain problems during the post-processing stage. Like it or not, an Ngon workflow when going for concept art, especially for hard surface models, is simply the smart way to go. I will never waste my time trying to retopologize the entire mesh, especially when it does nothing for me since the final output is a render. Now, the next case where Ngons are useful is if you're creating hard surface game assets. There's a common misconception that game assets need to be all quad topology, and the truth is they don't. However, be careful if you...
From my understanding, see, I actually thought it was more so like most modeling software and especially video game modeling. I thought it was more so that you're kind of supposed to use triangles. Triangles are really where it's at, and anything above a triangle will just get converted to triangles before rendering or before being sort of processed properly. That was my understanding, because like when I learned model like 3D programming at university, as I understood it, you can make a polygon of any size. You can make a polygon any number of vertices, but it will get converted into, depending on how you define them, it will get converted into triangles essentially, because that's how 3D modeling or 3D rendering systems work. They work with triangles. Everything gets converted to triangles, and that's why I always thought I felt kind of like when I first started modeling stuff, I felt kind of like I was cheating when I used quads, because I was like, well, a quad is just two triangles. It's just going to get converted into two triangles, every square. And so the fact that Ngons have, there's like more controversy around Ngons than there are about quads is quite surprising to me. But also that quads are like considered, oh, these are right, whereas Ngons are not right. That they differentiate like that, it surprises me. I think it's fascinating. Anyway.
We do go for an Ngon workflow here because there are quite a few reasons where quads might actually be superior. For example, if I'm UV unwrapping and I want to pack the islands more efficiently, usually I need to straighten those out, and with Ngons, I simply can't do that. I need quads. Also, if I'm using things like trim sheets, I can't unwrap these trims over a strip of Ngons. It simply won't project properly. However, aside from these small cases where you may need to be a bit more picky with your topology, it is absolutely fine to run Ngons on your game assets. But before you do, you need to do a few things. Number one, focus on shading. You don't want nasty shading all over your models, especially if you end up running booleans on something like a curved surface where the shading does go crazy. In these cases, I'd recommend isolating the shading as opposed to eliminating it completely. The only true way to get perfect shading is with perfect, consistent quad-based topology, and in my opinion, it's much more efficient to simply isolate the shading issues. As long as you isolate the shading problems, most of these small errors that you might see will get masked, especially during the texturing stage, and the viewer won't even be able to see it. So next time you're in a video game, take a look at some of the hard surface game assets and you'll probably see shading issues here and there on the hard surface models. That's because the artists aren't over obsessing over the minor shading problems. They're instead obsessing over a clean design. Now, number two, you need to make sure before exporting your game asset out of Blender that you triangulate it. This is because each engine has a specific triangulation algorithm. Which
this is exactly what I was talking about. Is like at the final stage when exporting a model, or when a graphics rendering system, when a 3D rendering platform is rendering something, is rendering a 3D model, it usually converts it into triangles anyway.
Is usually written differently than Blender's. So sometimes if you try to export a game asset with Ngons everywhere, what ends up happening is it won't even display properly in other software. This can be fixed by simply adding a triangulate modifier to your mesh and ticking the keep normals button to maintain the shading. Next, Ngons are incredibly useful for quick concepting, even if you do end up needing quads for your final workflow. Now, when I say Ngons are useful for quick concepting, what I really mean is Booleans are useful for quick concepting, but Booleans generally end up causing Ngons most of the time.
I was like, where's that? There's like a ooh sound, and I was like, is that my computer doing that? It's in the video.
Sometimes you just want to play with shapes and figure out what design flow works for you. And then once you've experimented and figured out what works for you, you can always go back and retopologize everything. And finally, Ngons are great for a quick, iterative, non-destructive workflow. Again, I'm mainly referring to
I guess the idea he's saying, what he's getting across, what I interpret this as is that you can totally use Ngons when you're modeling something. When you're working on models, you can totally use Ngons, especially if you're sticking to Blender, if you're rendering models in Blender, rendering scenes or whatever inside of Blender. Ngons, totally fine. However, once you've made your design and you've worked on it and got it functioning the way you want it, you need to make sure that when you go to use it elsewhere, that you put it, you basically transform it or export it in such a way that it is readable by other software. In the most logical case, the most simple version of that is to tessellate, or triangulate everything. I think he had a name for it that I.
Concepting. What I really mean is Booleans are useful for quick concepting, but Booleans generally end up causing Ngons most of the time. Ngons are incredibly modifier to your mesh, triangulate modifier.
Yeah, triangulate modifier. You just need to make sure you triangulate it before you use it elsewhere. That's totally fine. That's not my. I swear, Fireboy, it's not my computer doing it. You can hear it's like. It's quiet, silent. And then, well, there was a car noise in the background there, but I don't know if the mic picked that up. It's like so totally quiet, and then
destructive workflow. Again, I'm mainly referring to booleans here because I can simply drop a boolean on my mesh, move it around, and quickly iterate through designs on my mesh. After I've figured out what I like, I can always either keep the n-gons or clean the geometry if needed for my specific pipeline. So hopefully you now understand that n-gons aren't all that big of a deal depending on your goals. However,
I get it.
Can be extremely problematic in other situations, which we'll now discuss.
I totally get having audio issues. Like, the amount of times I've recorded something, and then while I'm editing it, I'm like, oh no. Like, let's say Mark's laptop was, like, doing something that just meant it was like, or the AC was on blast, and so you just have this, like, in the background. Or it's freaking raining, and I didn't notice until after the recording. It's so noise that's so irritating in audio editing.
Example, take a look at these two meshes. They look identical. In terms of visuals,
it's so hard to get it perfect.
Are identical, but in terms of the actual underlying geometry, they are built completely differently. Let's take this first mesh full of n-gons and attempt to deform it. In Blender, I'll just use a simple deform modifier, and you're gonna see almost immediately the shading goes crazy and it completely breaks down. This is a massive flaw of using n-gons where you may need to deform or animate your mesh. In this case, you want to go with the same design but with clean quad-based topology. Now when I try to bend it, you're going to see the shading remains clean and consistent even when deformed.
My house doesn't like me.
Another situation to consider is that some software simply won't accept n-gons. In a program like ZBrush, generally you need to have the mesh remeshed in order to sculpt onto the geometry. And some software simply won't accept it at all. I can't speak for every software because there are so many and I simply don't use all of them, but definitely keep this in mind depending on your industry and your ultimate goals. Now, one final thing I want to discuss. A workflow you've probably seen from the beginning of time is the traditional subdivision surface modeling workflow where you model with all quads and clean topology. So, should you use it? Well, nowadays, not really, unless you need a clean mesh for reasons we discussed before. For example, if I want to make a base shape and have it curvy and a clean flow to it, it would probably be advantageous to use a sub-D modeling workflow to get that shape. However, once you no longer need sub-D to support the form of your mesh, it is totally fine to go back to our traditional Boolean and n-gon workflow, assuming that it is acceptable for your pipeline. The reason so many people have taught sub-D techniques in the past is because sub-D was simply needed. Sub-D supported clean shading and clean topology before the technology in 3D software became more advanced. Now, with modern hard surface modeling workflows, we have algorithms such as weighted normals, which help to flex the shading property on flat surfaces, and we even have triangulation algorithms to help support us in workflows where n-gons won't work, but quads aren't needed. There's a reason I use booleans so much on my channel, and that is because they work for nearly every workflow I'm going for. The main situations where I use sub-D nowadays is if I want to get a curvy shape, which I couldn't normally accomplish with a boolean workflow. Now, if you're still a bit scared of n-gons, let me show you something interesting. Engineers, designers, and concept artists tend to use other software as well, such as Moi 3D, Fusion 360, and any of the CAD software out there. Let's say I made a quick design in Moi 3D, for example. Moi 3D doesn't have polygons because it is vector based. However, if I wanted to export the mesh into polygons for use in Blender, watch what happens. It converts the mesh into one that contains polygons and n-gons. That is because it literally doesn't matter in workflows like these. Technically, engineers and designers are using n-gons in professional settings every single day. It's just not in the way you'd expect. Convert one of their models into polygons and you'll see n-gons all over the place, and it really isn't a problem. Now, a video some of you might be interested in is a recent one that my friend Ryu made, where he breaks down video game assets from Star Citizen and how they were created. What he found was pretty interesting, and I'll link that video here and in the description. Hopefully next time you're worried about a specific topology situation, you first assess what your end goals are and if clean topology is even needed in the first place. For those of you interested in getting started with hard surface modeling and learning the Boolean and Ngon workflow, check out our hard surface modeling jumpstart course right here. You can also click the link in the description, and we'll take you from A to Z on a complete hard surface concept design in Blender using the basic tools. Also, we have a free ebook which goes into the subject even further if you're interested. You can
Yeah, anyway, interesting, really interesting. Again, I got the way I was taught. Like I didn't really learn. I was never really taught 3D modeling. However, I was taught 3D model programming. As in, I was taught some OpenGL style 3D rendering stuff, and yeah, it was very much based on like triangles. It was based purely on like triangular polygons. And so like even if you had things declared in quads, it would convert them essentially into triangles to then render it entirely via the triangles. So yeah, I find that interesting. Also, this yes, I think I've seen this before.
Happy Star Wars Day, everyone. Today is also my birthday. And because it's my birthday, I get to introduce you to my girlfriend, who is amazing. Happy Star Wars Day, everyone. Today is also my birthday. And because it's my birthday, I get to introduce you to my girlfriend, who is amazing. Today is also my birthday. And because it's my birthday. Today is also my birthday.
Marcus, you don't want to do this. Let her go.
My girlfriend.
Breaking news, a man is currently holding his girlfriend hostage. Police are outside of his home waiting negotiation terms.
This is Rover 2L2, Eye in the Sky. We have visual on target. I repeat, we have visual on target.
Hi, we are live in front of the home where a woman is being held hostage.
News, a man is currently holding his girlfriend hostage. Police are outside of
my fellow Americans. I know we are all aware of the current market situation developing, and I want to assure you I have my top FBI agents on the case.
Stupid cats got turned on for a minute there. Oh, it didn't even show up above me. Yeah, it's a brilliant classic. Anyway, A5. I know some people posted some new stuff. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of new stuff. All right, we got auto aim. Oh, this will be interesting. Ah. What was that intro?
And that's why Doomguy cannot look up or down. And that's totally okay. If Doomguy needs to shoot baddies that are above or below him, he can rely on his weapon's magic properties that will do the vertical aiming for him. So how does it work? Let's dive deep into the code for that. When you pull the trigger, wait, really? That's cheesy, even by my standards. Shoo. There, much better. When you pull the trigger, a 1024 map unit long ray is cast from the player at height 36. The ray also scans for things above and below the player, as long as they are visible and don't exceed a slope of around 58 degrees. The nearest viable target will be chosen for auto-aim. How does the auto-aim determine its endpoint? Does it shoot bullets and projectiles to the target center? Almost. First it checks the target's Z value, then adds its height. Then the player's shot Z value is subtracted from that. That's the height where the shots will land. What if only the enemy's head sticks out? Then it will calculate the slope based on the highest floor in front of the enemy. The same applies to lowest ceilings, in case you want to tickle the enemy's feet. What about pellet-based weapons? How do those auto-aim? Simple. They use the slope as a base and will apply spread around that. And BFG tracers? Also simple. They retain the fan shape, and each tracer can individually aim up or down. Your melee weapons also vertical auto-aim. but the ray will be around 64 minutes long instead of 1024. So, a perfect solution for not being able to look up or down, right? For hit-scan weapons, sure. For projectiles, it gets a bit tricky. The projectile's bounding box is not taken into account, so if you try to shoot an enemy below you, the paper-thin ray may say yup, but that fat rocket of yours will think otherwise. This is something you may have never noticed yourself, but Doom also has horizontal auto-aim for projectile-based weapons. If your initial shot didn't register any objects to auto-aim at, it will try again, but with a 5.6 degrees offset. If that didn't register anything either, it will try one more time, but with a negative 5.6 degrees offset. The easiest way to spot this is shooting plasma at a zigzagging target. Again, you may think, oh sweet, nice of Doom to help us out with our crappy aiming, but this feature does more harm than good sometimes. Imagine shooting rockets at faraway enemies while hugging the wall. Suddenly, an enemy appears in your view. The game, with each shot, is still doing the auto-aim ray casts. The enemies you're aiming at are too far away for the initial ray. The second ray doesn't register anything either, but the third ray sees the newcomer enemy. Watch out, Mr. President, an enemy! Boom. Thanks, game. This feature is also somewhat flawed if you're trying to hit a target with a small hitbox. Since the 3 ray casts do not cover a big field, some dead zones may occur. What about enemies? Do they use auto-aim? Sort of. The zombies and Spider Demon do. Their vertical auto-aim raycast is actually superior. It's 2048 units long instead of the player's 1024. Their gunshot slope is also kept at 58 degrees, so while they can see you, they won't always be able to hit you. Keep in mind that this cap doesn't apply to the Archfall's devil magics. What about other demons? Well, they're cheating. They don't check for slopes, all they need is a clear shot. They check your origin, their origin, and then the projectile knows how much it must ascend or descend per game tick. An enemy projectile always spawns at height value 32, even Cyber Demon rockets. Revenants are a special case. Their missiles spawn at height value 48, but technically still at height 32. Why? Well, when a Revenant fires a missile, its Z value briefly increments by 16, then after the shot is fired, its Z value gets restored. I'm dead serious. Look. Doom's Z-axis is fairly limited though. 2 points in Doom, regardless of the slope, are considered having the same distance. Because of this, projectiles that travel a short distance, but have a big height difference between the 2 points, will move at ludicrous speeds. This will also happen with Lost Souls. Look at them go! Whee! And that's all there is to say about Doom's auto-aim. Not a very complicated feature, but when wielding the rocket launcher, it is important to know when to shoot. May this info be valuable enough to prevent accidental phase rockets. The end. Thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to the page.
And I'm sure there are instances where you're trying to shoot ahead of targets, but because of the auto-aim, it'll shoot directly at the target instead, and then you'll miss because it's moving. I'm sure there are instances of that. There's plenty of instances of that as well. Anyway, loot bug. Ooh. What's this about? I know it's about Deep Rock Galactic, but
6 years ago, a handful of new bugs were added to a closed alpha build of Deep Rock Galactic. Maggots, spitball infectors, cave
happens all the time.
swarms, and finally, loot bugs. Most of the creatures I listed don't really bring enough to a conversation for a whole video, but that just isn't the case for loot bugs. Named by previous DRG employees, the loot bug is a gentle grub that prefers to eat nitra and gold over anything else, slowly traveling around the cave and grabbing up anything it can. This diet comes in pretty handy, as most hostile creatures don't really want to bite into a grub filled with rocks, so if you find yourself in a situation with a lot of hostile creatures, just start stuffing rocks down your mouth. Just eat a ton of rocks, and they'll probably run away. I don't know, it's kind of weird though, usually rocks are the thing coming out of the dwarves. Since nothing really wants to eat these guys, they're widespread across the whole planet, residing in every nook and cranny they can find. Sitting there, not doing much, just eating stuff off the ground. Being docile, cute, and existing everywhere is quite the trifecta of traits, splitting the DRG community like nothing else in the game. Okay, maybe industrial sabotage is close too. I wanted to run through everything there is about loot bugs, some neat lesser known details, where I sit in this eternal moral debate, and even a way to extract minerals that won't end in their untimely looting. Let's pull out a card and run through the stats. Loot bugs reside in all biomes, have 100 health, no resistances, no weaknesses, and are immune to lures and pheromone aggro. The only thing that really gets these guys moving around is shiny stuff, which I'm sure the dwarves can relate to, maybe even dislike them for. They have one attack listed in the Miner's Manual, Mineral Chomp. Loot bugs spawn with a random amount of 2 resources, gold and nitra, the latter of which being more important to any dwarf it comes across. The amount each loot bug holds can vary pretty drastically. Sometimes you get a couple nitra and gold, sometimes you get a quarter of a resupply. These bugs can easily bring a substantial amount of resources to any team depository and change a mission when ammo is tight. I'm sure some of you know this, but it's worth mentioning that loot bugs do eat up minerals sitting on the ground in caves, and the game will actually keep track of what it consumes and drop the according things on death. What some of you might not know is that there's some hidden magic in those grubs. Any resources that enter a loot bug seemingly increase when dropped again. Loot bugs drop 1.5 times the total minerals consumed, which is an interesting detail to think about. What if DRG could use this to their advantage? Maybe convince them to eat up a ton of morkite? They could use loot bugs like little mineral piggy banks and increase their profits. Is it kind of messed up? Yeah. All this talking about eating has me hungry, but not for nitra or gold. For this video's sponsor, that was that for a segue, isn't that pretty good, right?
Oh my
I
God.
eat food, but I'm not very great at it. I either don't eat enough during the day,
Let me
or I eat
guess,
something I
HelloFresh?
shouldn't, like fast food, and end up regretting it. That's why I've been eating meals from
The Factor.
Factor delivers fresh and pre-prepared meals
Anyway.
to your door weekly. Other than the obvious part where you get resources from them, there really isn't much to loot bugs from a gameplay perspective, other than riding them. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, I used to always do that. Stand on top of them.
It's undeniable that loot bugs are one of the cutest parts of DRG. They make funny little noises, they wiggle around, and you can pet them. I mean, how can you not like them? I mean, they even have plushes.
How
which
many
you currently can't
HelloFresh
buy.
likes
It's
are
very
there?
sad,
Yeah,
but I did get
there's
one.
tons
Check
now.
this guy out. Here he is. I named him
Factor
Squimby.
is one of the latest
He's a cool
ones.
guy. Everyone say, yeah, Squimby.
Squimby.
Everyone in the comments say, yeah, Squimby, yeah. A lot of the fan base and even the dwarves feel guilt or full-on refuse looting these bugs, which is understandable. When I first started playing the game, I refused to attack loot bugs, at least on purpose. I would accidentally hurt them like all the time and feel really bad. But other than that, I would simply ignore them. I was playing on lower hazards, deep dives weren't in the game yet, and I just wasn't ever really struggling with nitra enough to really consider it. But as the difficulty I played increased and I started doing elite deep dives, loot bugs became a lot more tempting. In those moments where you're low on nitra, or where you're sitting at like 75, and you can't find a vein of this stuff, but there is a little guy sitting right there. It's either find some, which who knows how long that'll take, or take out the guy and have a resupply within a few seconds. Outside of that more common case, in on-site refining, loot bugs drive me up a wall. In the current version of the game, these creatures are more dense in refining missions. The reason behind this isn't important at all and does not matter, but I'm gonna explain it anyway. Sorry. It basically is just a problem with how the game spawns these creatures. The pieces that make up a cave are usually more spread out than they are on on-site refining. You know, they're like in a mining mission, the cave pieces are pretty strung out and pretty far apart. In the case of refining, they're very densely packed and there's quite a few pieces packed in there. Each of these pieces has a certain quota of loot bugs that it spawns, so they appear more densely packed in on-site refining. Next time you play one of these, you'll see what I'm talking about, and I'll have changed your brain forever, and those neurons, they're not gonna fire the same way anymore. They're gonna fire in a whole new way. You're gonna have to get used to it. So,
I remember you talking about a game, about game jams.
So when you have a room,
I have never done a Ludum Dare,
no.
no.
And pipes, there's a pretty high chance you're gonna have a head-on collision with a slug blazing down a pipe over the speed.
I've only participated in what? Is it 3 jams or is it 4? I actually can't remember. I think it might just be 3 game jams, and 2 of them were mine. I think. Yeah. I've never done a Ludum Dare before. I've never done a 2-day game jam. 2-day game jams is just too much for me. I've only ever participated in 1 week game jams.
Limit. So I'm gonna be honest, I pretty much just take out all loot bugs I see on on-site refining. But outside of on-site refining, I kind of have a weird rule set in my brain that I've created for taking out loot bugs. If I'm sitting okay on nitra and I'm not struggling,
I've never
with the
seen
mission,
those
I
rabbit
kinda
things
just avoid
before.
it. It's so funny because old me would be so disappointed. Like, I used to see people in public lobbies.
Yeah,
do this
48
stuff
hour
and be
game jam
insulted.
sounds scary,
I taught
exactly.
all my friends that loot bugs are our friends too, and we don't attack those sweet.
But I'm so impressed by people who can
especially
get
considering
a
that there's a
game
planet
done in
where
48
this
hours.
exists. Those little grubs are glimmers
Also
of
3
hope
days.
on a worthless
Oh.
planet like Hoxie's. Speaking of glitter,
Still,
you
like,
might find
3
yourself in the
days,
presence of a rare
not much
and
longer than
fancy
2
kind
days.
of loot bug, a golden kind. These have a 15%
Oh, Easter
chance
event
of
thing.
spawning
Yeah,
in any mission, and oh boy, are you in for a treat if you lack the empathy to steal that gold. They usually have multiple trips of gold stored away, and it's definitely one of the more time-efficient sources of gold in the game. Even more time-efficient if you use everyone's favorite perk, it's a bug thing. This perk is used widely across the board by everyone who plays this game. It is a must-have equipable upgrade that makes you 10 times better at DRG, no doubt. Except for the fact that the previous
Where they just
43 words
explode
I just said,
automatically.
or 229 characters if you're feeling fancy about it, were a complete lie, and this perk sucks. Though it would actually kind of be handy for me on refining missions, apparently. But what if I told you there's a way around this eternal debate? What if you could get all
think
the
I had
minerals
that
out of a loot bug
upgrade.
and not hurt them? Or well, you do hurt them still, but they don't die. In Season 3, a new tool called the Lithofoamer was added to the game. It's only available on missions with lithophage outbreak mutators, so you're not going to be...
One second. Does anyone know how to open the side of a Dell Pentium 3 case? No. Lumdare also do an extended version now too. Ah, it's unranked. Right. But I think it's a couple of weeks. Oh, shit. Yeah, I've only ever done 1 week game jams. Like, that's, for whatever reason, they're just the ones that 1 week feels like the right amount of time, where less than 1 week feels like not enough time to properly think through and then develop an idea. But then 2 weeks feels like too long for me. Where it's like 2 weeks, I almost would the expected quality shoots up a bunch because you have a bunch more time to work on a bunch more asset stuff. But even though it's still only 2 weeks, and I've hosted a sort of game jam that was 2 weeks, but that was for my people at the school that I was working at. Yeah. I gave them 2 weeks to work on a project. With a hammer. Open the side of a Dell Pentium 3 case with a hammer. Oof. No, 1 week is too long. Too easy to have brain go ADHD and lose interest. No. 1 week is not too long. 1 week gives you enough time that even if you have a couple of days of like no motivation or no like you just get nothing done, you can still manage to get something released. That's what I feel like. It's like 1 week, it allows for, because like that's me, that's me. I think on both of the game jams that I've hosted, just go quicker. On both the game jams I've hosted, so the one where I made the perfect cup of brew the perfect tea, and the Moonlight Peaks game jams, both of those games, there were a couple of days, a day or two, where I just like couldn't think of what to do next, or just had like no motivation to work on a particular day. Like I just had a down day or two where I was just like, I just can't work on the game today. And despite that, I still was like down to the wire releasing, getting that game out. So like both those the jams that I hosted, I remember I was like up late the night before, and I was still getting up to stream the following morning. Yeah. So for me, I think a week is just perfect because it gives you a little bit of leeway. 5 days would be like my absolute minimum. I'd have to be working every day for those 5 days. 72 hours, you got to put in 8 to 12 hours a day and not get stuck. Yeah, and you might manage to complete your game if you didn't overscope it. Exactly, Sly. That's the thing, is like, if you're someone who is consistent, if you have consistent motivation, and you're not the kind of person who burns out easily, then a 72 hours game jam, it would be totally fine, totally doable. I am someone who I might get like 4 to 6 hours in a day on average overall. And so it just takes me more days. Yeah, and then again, some of those days I get nothing done. See, my issue is the moment I have one down day, that's it. Oh no. I'm not being able to touch it again in months. What I have, my big problem most of the time is that I get a bunch of shit done like day one. Or day two. Like if I start working on a project, I'll like get almost everything I'll get to a certain milestone of the project done. Like I'm literally working on a project in the background. I'm actually working on a couple of projects in the background at the moment. One of which I haven't made any significant progress since like the second day I was working on it, because I got everything. I kind of immediately got everything, all the most basic aspects of it done, like immediately. And since then, I've just been floundering, not getting anything done specific, trying to figure out how to proceed. And when that happens, that's when projects often get shelved for me. But I want to proceed with it. I want to get it done. So I'm going to keep trying to poke at it every now and then. I just keep changing my mind about how I want to proceed with it. Because at the moment I'm like, is this even going to be fun? I don't even think this is going to be fun. But then I have to keep reminding myself, like, no, I enjoy these kinds of games. So it'll be fun for someone, I'm sure. Really have to think about not how long you have, but how good you are at setting a realistic scope for the time you have. Yes. But that's the problem, is that sometimes day one for me, like the entirety of the first day, and even sometimes into the second day, I'm still thinking through what I actually want to do with the game. And so when you're working on a 2 or 3 day game, you need to have that idea down first day and be already working on it first day. Yeah, so like most of the time, if I signed up for 2 to 3 day game jams, I would bail on probably 60 to 80% of them, because I just couldn't think of something to do for the theme. For example, TikTok shorts, which are high dopamine and instant, makes them very addictive. Yes. Oh wait, I read that loss of interest is due to us being used to high dopamine levels with all the new entertainment. Yes, that is definitely an element of our modern day problems. I will admit, in recent time, so much of my time has been wasted looking at YouTube shorts or Instagram reels or what essentially are TikToks. I don't have TikTok, but essentially TikToks, but in other platforms. They're shockingly addictive. Like you just flick through one, watch another 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 one, and before you know it, a fucking hour has passed and you've done nothing but watch. Because you can't really do anything else when you're doing that either. Because if you're doing something, playing something, or working, the frequency with which you have to return to it to change to the next video or whatever means that you can't really focus on what you're doing. You're constantly being distracted, being like pulled away to look at the short. And so it's really bad for... I've been trying to move back towards just watching long form videos and video essays and stuff like that, because they're so much better for your ability to multitask, do work, and also like listen, like more like a podcast. Yeah, also I think it's a good idea to go into it with a few ideas. True, definitely. Think of ideas before the jam starts, and try and pick one that works well for the theme. Yeah. For example, TikTok shorts, which are high dopamine instant. Yes, yeah. Yeah. Like with Ludum Dare, sure you don't find out the theme to the start, but actually you'll see the final 10 themes for 24 hours leading up to it. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So you could theoretically come up with an idea for all 10 of them, theoretically. Come up with an idea for all 10 of them in the 24 hours leading up to it, so that once the jam starts, whichever theme it is, it ends up being the thing. You can just pick the idea you had for that one. Yeah, interesting. Oh, you got it opened? Nice. We always choose to play a game rather than build our own, because it's much easier to get that dopamine faster by playing. Yes, that is definitely true. I have been having problems with that, with getting stuff done on my game projects, because I just end up playing games or watching YouTube shorts and not getting anything done. Require a stick of dynamite.
Able to do this all the time, but regardless, you can do it in those. If you attack or pet a loot bug, there's a small chance it'll drop a piece of the minerals it has in it, like a little peace offering. Since the lithofoamer does almost no damage and attacks really fast, it can cause a loot bug to drop a ton of resources relatively fast, enough to get all of them out of it without killing it. This is like if the trolley problem had a third option where you just lift the train up over the tracks. I didn't know about this until recently, and I just think it's so funny that it happened like this. This is why video games are great, right? Because you put new things into it, you update it. And these new things can interact with every single thing that was previously in the game. And sometimes that creates funny scenarios.
The song that's currently playing, is this from RuneScape?
Like this one, where you can just shoot toothpaste at a loot bug and it just drops a bunch of stuff.
What game is this
from? I
from?
love that. That's amazing. This is why games are awesome, and I'm so glad it's a thing. To help those who want to reduce their loot bug count,
Wait.
I present a
I'm gonna go back a bit.
Right, because you didn't know about this until recently. Enough to get all of them out of it without killing it. This is like if the trolley problem had a third option where you just lift the train up over the tracks. I didn't know about this until recently, and I just think it's so funny that it happened like this. This is why video games are great, right? Because you put new scenarios like this one.
Sounds so familiar, but I don't know what it's from.
And it just drops a bunch of stuff. And I love that. That's amazing. This is why games are awesome.
If people are wondering what the game is in the video, it's Deep Rock Galactic.
Loot bug count. I present a point-based rating system of how badly you need to loot some bugs. I call it System to Uphold Privilege in Docility. Or
Right, yeah, maybe loot some bugs. 9 to 12, you should loot some bugs. Yeah. Anyway, I'll move on from this. This is really good though. I like this a lot. And I didn't know about that new weapon. That means you can get all the loot from it. That's funny. A couple of times I've tried it. I've tried to come up with a total of 3 or 4 themes. They cover all of them. Right, yeah. Yeah. Gameplay mapped out beforehand. Yes. Example, they're gonna make a platformer game, and then rather than thinking of a game, think of a way to apply the theme. Yeah, that is the way I approached the very first game jam that I did. That very first one that was like a true game jam, because the later two I was the host of, so I had an idea in mind. Why I had a theme in mind before the theme. Like I was the one making up the theme. So it's a bit unfair, but yeah, for the very first one I did, that is exactly how I approached it. I was like, I was like, I want this to be simple, this is my first ever game jam, so I'm just gonna make a classic 2D platformer. And I ended up getting Damien to help me with the graphics and the music. He was originally just gonna do the music, but then he ended up also doing the graphics. So I was just like, okay, focus on the gameplay stuff, the stuff that the programming and levels and stuff like that. Yeah, which is lame but smart. Well, it's safe, is what it is. The video description might say the game now. Oh, the game that was in that video was Deep Rock Galactic, by the way. Yeah, no, that's the thing is, I tend to go into the jams with an idea of, like, an underlying style of game, but, like, because I usually want to, like, at the time, I'm like, I want to make a game that's, like, sort of in this style, and then when I see the theme, I let that adjust whatever I'm making, and I let that match it. There's a happy medium, though. Don't go into it with an idea and force the theme. I think it's a good idea to go in with some ideas. Yeah, exactly. Even if those some ideas are just thoughts on the kind of thing you want to make. Yeah, exactly. Like, again, I was like, in that first one, I was like, to be safe, I wanted to start with a classic platformer, and then I found out the theme, and I worked the theme into your classic platformer thing. It was very safe, though. What I went with that very first one was very safe. The last one I did, the only thing I knew is that I wanted to make a rhythm game. Right, yeah. Fancied it and thought it would be a fun challenge. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you can tell the games that were entirely planned in advance. Yeah. Versus rough idea, preference, etc. Yeah. Exactly. There are definitely people who, like, they have basically the whole game planned out beforehand, and then they just force the theme into their plan. That's the thing, is like the platformer thing that I came up with, the platformer idea that I had when I was working on that very first game jam, I had no plans for it to be, like, it ended up being that Whisper game that Damien and I made, where it was like, you're a floating orb wisp that moves around, like, this 2D space, and there are, like, slime enemies, and there's, like, the style is very, like, pink and blue and pastel colors, and the whole thing ended up being a thing of, like, there's, like, multiple endings to it and stuff like that. None of that was in my head before the game jam started. All I had was 2D platformer, and I even before the jam started, I worked on a very like single screen platformer thing. Oh, the only idea that I had, I basically, one thing I wanted to try was I had seen Lixian, a fellow YouTuber slash game developer, who, yeah, he worked on a game jam where he made a 2D platformer, and the way he made the levels load I thought was interesting, because he had this, like, slide tile system where his, like, level start would be on the screen, you reach the end, and then the level would, like, slide off the screen and you'd have a new level. And I was like, I want to do something similar to that with my 2D platformer. And that was basically the extent of all the pre-planning that I did. It was 2D platformer with a level system that would just slide off the screen. Yes. Yeah, the Do It For Me game jam. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Do It For Me was a game jam game. Yeah. And so for Whisper, we used that same sort of style. I made mine a little different than his. The way that the level crossed over worked a little differently than his one. But other than that, everything else was like... originally, when I very first started making the game, I was like, maybe I'll make you play as the slime. And you were originally gonna play as the pink slime, and there were going to be green slimes as enemies, as a way of, like, I guess, simplifying the, like, animation system. But then Damien was actually the one to suggest that we play as a wisp. And so I ended up developing, like, floating, the way the character, you're still platforming, but you're floating just above the ground. And that's when the pink slime that was originally the player character became the bad guy, and became, like, the one leading you and lying to you, because our theme was, the game is a lie. I wonder why that one blew up. I honestly have no idea. There's no rhyme or reason for it from my perspective. Super Mario Bros. And by the way, Mario is also insert theme trait here. Yes, yeah. Yeah, some people, they have, like, it's all, everything, they're doing all the things ahead of time, and then they just add some superfluous thing to it to make it work with the theme. Yeah. Yeah, I've never known why Do It For Me blew up. But, I tried my hand, I shamelessly tried my hand at doing that again with, Lixian once again released another game that was the Late Night Mop, where he made a 3D game where you're mopping up stuff and cleaning up stuff, in an apartment that's haunted. And I played it, like, the day I saw he made it, the day I saw his video on it, I, like, recorded, edited, uploaded the video. I did it as soon as I could to try and match the same speed and style with which I did his previous game, and a fraction of the viewership came through. And I gained, basically, I don't think I gained a single subscriber from that video, whereas the previous one I gained literally 2,000 subscribers from. So yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. Anyway, the only thing I can think of is, like, the difference was Late Night Mop was more of, like, a YouTuber-y kind of game. It's like classic, like, horror indie thing, and so probably way more YouTubers played it. Whereas Do It For Me, this little platformer that he made, not a whole lot of people played it because it isn't their style of game. So the only people that did play it was people like me and a few other indie, like, small YouTubers, and because of that, we were the only choice in terms of watching that video. That's the only thing I can think of as the difference. Because I saw a ton of people play Late Night Mop, whereas only a handful of people played Do It For Me. It's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, I keep opening this up again. The first casualties of AI.
It is May 3rd, 2023, and you're watching The Code Report. Kids these days are no longer cheating on their homework like they used to. College cheating
they use AI to
was
cheat.
down 50% yesterday after revealing that ChatGPT is killing its business. A ridiculous 89% of students are already using ChatGPT, and that's bad news for any kind of tutoring platform. The company is taking a if you can't beat them, join them strategy, and signed up for the OpenAI API to develop something called Checkmate.
And that's why we're working with GPT-4
to help students cheat themselves out of a real education. But you gotta break some chegs if you want to make an omelet, and the bodies of ChatGPT are starting to pile up. BuzzFeed and Vice Media are both going out of business, in part because AI can now write deep, enlightening articles like 10 Reasons JavaScript is Homophobic. You've also got language learning apps like Duolingo afraid right now, because it looks like LLMs will become superior second language teachers, making their products obsolete. LegalZoom is also tanking as we speak, because they're in the direct kill zone of AI. Nobody's going to be paying to fill out legal templates when you can tell ChatGPT to generate one for you for free. Once the ChatGPT retrieval plugin goes live, every company will be able to hook up their own data to generate legal documents on the fly. That's game over for LegalZoom. But the company that stands to lose the most in the AI race, if it doesn't win, is Google. Alphabet just had great earnings, but if ChatGPT continues to grow at this rate, it's literally the fastest growing app of all time. Google search traffic should go down. That would be bad, because search ads are one of the biggest cash cows of all time that account for over 50% of Alphabet's revenue. But Google doesn't want to lose to Microsoft. Google I/O is exactly 1 week away, and it'll be interesting to see what they have in store. Bad news for Google though, AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton just quit. He's often called one of the godfathers of deep learning, and helped pioneer things like backpropagation and neural networks that we use today. He resigned because he wants to be able to, quote, freely speak about the risks of AI. He's afraid Putin and DeSantis will use it to win elections, or use it to build hyper-intelligent killing machines. His resignation was a surprise, but he made it clear that Google has acted responsibly with its AI endeavors. This guy's pretty smart, and if he says AI is dangerous, we might want to listen to him. But I don't think Putin's gonna. The Russians just announced their own large language model last week called GigaChat. I know from experience that Russians are very talented AI researchers, and I'm somewhat skeptical that they'll pause their research if the AI turns out to be a little sexist. But getting back to hyper-intelligent killing machines, Palantir just demonstrated some innovative new ways to blow people up with AI.
The operator uses AIP to generate 3 possible courses of action to target this enemy equipment. Send these 3 options to my commander.
It looks like the job of lieutenant is dead, but IBM, one of the biggest employers in tech, just announced that it will be eliminating 7,800 jobs over the next 5 years. People seem to forget that IBM is a big AI player that created Watson to beat Ken Jennings in Jeopardy over a decade ago. But the jobs going away are mostly back office roles like HR and paper pushers that we already know AI is going to replace.
What would you say you do here?
The scary thing is that there's consultants just like these guys teaching dinosaur companies how to replace humans with AI. The vast majority of this will take place behind closed doors, and you'll never hear about it in the news. Goldman Sachs predicts 300 million jobs could be lost to AI in the coming years. The good news, though, is that programming jobs appear to be safe for the time being, and it's reassuring to know that 60% of workers today are in occupations that didn't exist in 1940. AI is likely going to create a bunch of new jobs, like of course the prompter, and many others that we haven't even imagined yet. Furthermore, a new paper just dropped explaining how all this scary emergent AI hype is really just a mirage produced by researchers. It's almost like even the smartest people in the world don't know what the hell is going on with AI. Or maybe they know exactly what's going on, but they just want to hype it up and regulate it so they can control it and make tons of money from it before the average person figures out how to train their own state-of-the-art models that can prove once and for all that we're not on a spinning ball, because that's what this is all about. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
It has to be said, like, there is going to be another one of those scary fucking, is going to be another one of those waves, like with the Industrial Revolution very soon, where a ton of jobs are going to be replaced with AI. And until we figure out what to do with ourselves outside of those positions, there's going to be a huge wave of unemployment. Yeah, there's just going to be a huge wave of unemployment. And unfortunately, people, especially in my generation, but also your guys' generations as well, are going to be affected by that. I think, like, because I haven't already set myself up with a steady job and income, because I chose to do YouTube and fuck up my future prospects. Unless this fucking YouTube thing works, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. Or game development works. I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. Cause yeah, if for people sort of in my generation who haven't set themselves up, or Gen Z types, there's gonna be a huge wave of the stuff you're learning now is gonna be replaced. All the jobs you're heading towards are gonna be replaced with AI. Well, a good majority of them. And until there is a replacement, until there are replacement jobs in a field that we might not even know exists yet, it might be a tough period of time. Cynthia, back to 1515 then. The good old days. You don't want to live then. You don't want to live back then. Paperwork focused jobs are fucked. Yes. And so many positions like they mentioned, like writing up legal documents and stuff where you're having to people who do paperwork stuff, like just writing out stuff that could be done in like template form. All the like assistant positions for many companies. Anyone who's handling like almost like any sort of customer service roles, Like, when I say customer service, I mean like phone or email-based customer service. Yeah. All people doing data and like doing stuff where they process data. All those jobs are fucked. Lawyers won't go away, but their job will get much easier. Yes, lawyers will continue to milk people for the money. However, yeah, writing up legal documentation will be done. Well, like, writing up a lot of legal documentation, especially the stuff that isn't, like, isn't new, isn't being written brand new. All the legal document stuff that is just, like, formalities and stuff like that, that normally they'd have to just fill in a few sample sections of like a template, automatically done for them via AI systems. Also, they can just ask AI to find legal loopholes. Yes. Yeah, true. And like things like lawyers just looking for precedent. Like, show me what, you know, you ask an AI to show you what the precedent is for this scenario, and you can basically see whether or not, like, from legal cases in the past, you can just get an AI to basically show you what in the past how that kind of situation has gone, without having to read up through thousands and thousands of pages of legal documentation. You can just say, like, what in the past, how has this kind of thing been ruled, and the AI can literally return to you with that information. Like, in the case of these two and these, like, there's like this many cases that have ruled in this way and this many cases that have ruled in this way, and from the data set given, this is the precedent that would be set by those rulings. And so, yeah, lawyers' jobs will become a lot easier. And it might actually mean that the bar for becoming a lawyer might drop a little. However, because that'll mean that there's more people potentially able to get into being a lawyer, there's going to be even more cutthroat methods for limiting the amount of lawyers are in a university. Because, yeah. Again, you don't want to have too many people. There's just not enough jobs available for thousands and thousands of people to become lawyers. Cynthia, back to 2023. BCE. The good old days, yeah. Alright, least strange 1993 code.
Let's face it, Doom's monster AI is primitive.
I will warn everyone ahead of time. I'm probably not going to watch the whole video, but I will watch a good portion of it.
They try to get close to you and perform an attack. You shoot at them, they get hurt, and they die. Behind their simplistic behavior is a fairly elegant system. Let's take a look how it works and also check out some oddities while we're at it. First of all, let's see how Doom monsters are defined. They're pretty much hard-coded in the engine in the form of a collection of data. Each data collection contains indices to several enemy states. The spawn state, where an enemy is idle. The seize state, where an enemy is chasing down a target. The pain state, where the enemy will play their pain animation and sound. The melee state, that tells what to do when performing a melee attack. The missile state, that tells what to do when performing a ranged attack. The death state, that will play the enemy's death animation and sound. The X-death state, that will play the enemy's gymming animation. And the raise state, that will play the animation of an enemy getting resurrected. Let's take the Revenant as an example. Its spawn state uses index S skeleton stand. In this huge area of hard-coded states, go to the index we just picked. Here you can see a collection of values and functions. Let's quickly go through all of them. SPR scal is the base index for the Revenant sprite. The 0 afterwards means the frame offset. This state must last for 10 ticks. 1 tick lasts 1/35th of a second, so 10 ticks is about 0.29 seconds. This must call the A-look function. We'll get into that later. The next action must be scal stand 2, so the line below. The last two values are unused, so they're always 0. What we just described was the first action of the Revenant spawn state. It consists of two actions where it cycles between two sprites, making it walk in place. When you start a new level, enemies are loaded and placed in the designated locations. Newly spawned enemies get their health, type, state, etc. from the hard-coded collection of data we saw earlier. Positions and angles are based on how the mapmaker placed them. One interesting thing here is its reaction time. The reaction time always starts at 8, unless it's nightmare difficulty. Enemies never attack when the reaction time is greater than 0. So that means enemies on nightmare difficulty will not hesitate attacking you when they wake up. This is a fundamental difference between Nightmare's fast monsters and regular fast monsters, which retain the default reaction speed. Another exclusive Nightmare and fast monsters mechanic are Terror Pinkies and faster Imp, Cacodemon and Baron projectiles. The duration of the Pinkies' stay ticks are halved, and the projectile speeds for Imps, Cacodemons and Barons go from 10, 10 and 15 respectively to 20, 20, 20. Strangely enough, the newer Doom releases like the BFG edition and Bethesda's weird Unity build don't have Turbo Pinkies and faster projectiles. Anyway, how exactly do enemies wake up? Looking at the Revenant spawn state again, where it cycles between two sprites, it calls a look every 10 ticks. Let's see what this function does. First, it checks if a player made a sound in this sector. When a player fires a shot, the noise is propagated through many sectors. The sound keeps propagating until it hits a dead end, whether it be a wall, a closed door, or two sound blocking line devs. The sector will then mark the player as a target who made the sound. If a sound target exists, check the enemy's ambush flag. This is often incorrectly called the death flag by the Doom community. What the ambush flag does is that the enemy remains idle even if it heard a player shoot. It also extends their field of view from 180 degrees to 360, so they'll wake up even with their backs facing you. If a sound target exists and the enemy has no ambush flag, then wake up and start chasing the player. If the sector didn't register any sounds, then call the P look for players function. What this function does is scan for all players in the game. For each player, check if it's alive and if it's in sight. If all conditions apply, wake up and chase the player down. If the player is not in the enemy's field of view, but is within 64 units of the enemy's presence, then wake up regardless. Now the enemy wakes up, it will play its wake up sound. Imps and zombies have variations that will play randomly. Fully awake, it's time to hunt down the player. Going back to the Revenant states, its C state is S skeleton run 1. Let's see what happens here. It has 12 actions, with each action lasting 2 ticks. Each sprite lasts 4 ticks in total, and for every action it calls the A chase function. Let's check it out. Each time A chase is called, it decrements the enemy's reaction time and threshold by 1. The threshold value is explained in the infighting video, so make sure to watch that video to fully understand how that works. While we're moving, make sure to update the enemy's angle to the direction it's moving to. If the enemy has no target anymore, because it either died or disconnected, look for a new one. Didn't find any? Then go back to the spawn state and chill. If we just attacked, don't attack again unless it's nightmare difficulty or fast monsters are enabled. Instead of attacking so soon, try to find a new direction to move to using P new chase deer. We'll check out this function in just a moment. Up next we check if we can go for a melee attack. If the enemy has a melee state, is less than 64 units away from the player, and the player is in the enemy's line of sight, then punch the living bejesus out of him. Using the Revenant as an example again, this state contains 4 actions. Face the target, then next frame play the whoosh sound effect, advance to the next sprite, face the target again, and then play the punch sound effect, if within melee range. If the enemy has a projectile attack and its move counter is not 0 yet, then don't attack. Unless its nightmare or fast monsters are enabled. Then don't give a crap and go wild. We'll explain what the move counter is in just a minute. Before the enemy performs a successful projectile attack, it must comply with quite a lot of conditions. First of all, if the target is not in sight, then don't shoot the projectile. If the enemy just play their pain animation, then always attack back. This is why Revenants always do those annoying missile attacks after receiving a super shotgun blast to the face, even if they're in melee range. Here's the reaction time value again. As long as it's not
Wait, I missed a thing.
This is why Revenants always If the enemy just play their pain animation, then always attack back. This is why Revenants always do those annoying missile attacks after receiving a super shotgun blast to the face, even if they're in melee range. Here's the reaction time value again. As long as it's not 0, don't attack. This value is always 0 on Nightmare as explained earlier. Up next, the game calculates the distance between the enemy and the player, and then subtract 64 units from that number. If the enemy lacks a melee attack, then decrease the distance value by 128 units. If the enemy is an archvile and the distance is greater than 896 units, then never initiate an attack. If the enemy is a Revenant and the distance is within 196 units, then don't shoot missiles. This creates a bit of a dead zone for the Revenant where it will neither do its melee attack nor missile attack, unless he gets hurt of course. If the Revenant to player distance is greater than 196 units, then halve the distance value. If the enemy is a Cyber Demon, Spider Demon or Lost Soul, then also cut the distance value in half. Now, cap the distance value to 200 unless the enemy is a Cyber Demon, then cap it at 160. Generate a random number between 0 and 255, and if this value is smaller than distance, then don't shoot a projectile. A bit of a misleading name, missile state, since hit scanners also use it for ranged attacks. Speaking of which, enemy hit scan attacks are limited to
I have a very
2048
slight
units in
headache
length,
coming
but
on.
will still attack from distances far greater than
Oh, I have
that.
no drink left.
Also, most
No.
enemies call A face target when attacking. This ensures the enemy is facing the player when attacking, but the Barons and Hell Knights have a bit of an oversight. Their attack never calls A face target, so if they change targets right before they attack, they'll toss a fireball from their behinds. After performing a successful missile attack, run the enemy's missile state and flag the enemy as one that just attacked. Let's see how the Revenant does it. This state contains 4 actions. The first 2 will face the target and... what the? Why are the frame offsets so huge suddenly? That's because the sprite rendering code masks the value of 32,767, or 8,000 in hex, with the frame offset. If masked successfully, then the sprite must be rendered in full bright. Back to the A chase code. If this is a co-op game, the enemy's threshold has been decreased to 0, and it can see its current target, then look for new players. If move count decreased all the way to 0, or if it bumps into an obstacle, then change the chase direction. Also, randomly play a search sound while chasing down the player. Anyway, time to tackle the P new chase deer function. This function will determine how the enemy must reach the player and is called every time the move counter is 0. To keep it simple, start off by taking the shortest path towards the player, either ordinal or directly forward. If the player ends up behind you, turn around and move towards the player again. The enemy will keep traversing this path until the move counter equals 0. Then it will calculate the shortest path again and set a new random move counter value. This is why enemies zigzag around when trying to approach you. If the enemy cannot reach the player and walks past him, then stick to this direction until the game allows you to turn. If turning is possible, turn either clockwise or counterclockwise. If all fails, then you're pretty boned and most likely stuck. Before the game advances the enemy's movement, it calls a function called p-try-walk, where it calculates the enemy's next position. If it detects an obstacle with p-move, then don't move the enemy there. If the movement was successful, set a new random move counter value. So, when is a movement not valid? Obviously, bumping into a wall or object stops the enemy's movement. Also when the height difference between 2 sectors is 24 units or more. Unless it's a flying enemy of course, but we'll get to them in a moment. Stairs are also a bit tricky. Taking the enemy's total width into consideration,
how many days?
The difference between the highest step and the lowest step inside this width may not
I'm a
exceed
little
24
bit,
units
but
either.
it's actually
This
my
is why the
headache
thinner
more
enemies
than
can
anything.
walk stairs, and others cannot, unless you increase
Hey,
the
hi,
width
Ma.
of the steps. The game also checks if the
Hi,
enemy is not too
Master.
tall for the other sector. While moving, enemies will always attempt to interact with doors. If the
9
enemy's
more
collision
days,
box
nice.
crosses with the door, then the door will open up. The doors they can open are doors with special IDs 1, 32, 33 and 34. There's a bit of an oversight if the door is thin and a fast enemy bumps into the door. Some doors are marked for players only on one side, so if the enemy collision box touches that side, it will open up the door. A well-known example is Barney the Archvile from Doom 2's Map 27. Normally you require a red key to open the exit door, but the other side of the door is marked to be also opened by non-players. Another oddity is that enemies tend to get stuck at doors when they're inside the door sector and they're angled towards and touching the door tracks.
Yeah, welcome
They still
back.
register the special line diff inside the sector they're stuck in, but because the game sets their move direction to none during this process, the condition here fails and they get stuck. Flying enemies don't check if drop-offs are too steep or not. They don't change their height unless they bump into something. Then, hitting an obstacle, they will either descend or ascend depending what the new floor height value is. They will also float down if their target is getting too close. And that is how enemies move around the level. Fairly simple, but it works and isn't too taxing on the system. Now it's time to fight back. What happens when you harm an enemy? When you harm an enemy, the function P damage M
I think it's
object
best
is
to become
called.
Restius.
Let's see what
Yeah,
happens
it
here.
might be.
If the enemy you harmed was a charging lost soul, then reset all momentum back to 0. If the enemy is a lightweight relative to the damage
Not
you've
gonna lie, not a
dealt,
single
he's
word this
64
guy
units
said.
above you and
It's
dies,
gone into your brain.
and roll.
Yeah, no, I will say, I'm not taking in any of the specifics, I'm just taking in the broad concepts. So like things like going towards the player, if you hit a wall, it tries to turn in a direction and move in that direction for a bit. So like the broad none of the code, none of this is doing anything in my brain. It's getting filled, it's immediately out. But some of the stuff like to do with the logic, I suppose, of the way that it's working is sort of it's sort of like getting in there. Like there's a code which is like, if you're attacked, always attack back, no matter what the distance is, and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's
50%
really fascinating.
chance of the enemy falling forward. This is also why often lost souls are flung towards you when killed. If the enemy's health minus the damage dealt drops below 0, call p-kill-m object. We'll get to that function in a moment. If the damage does not kill the enemy, generate a random number and compare it to the enemy's pain chance. Each enemy has a hard-coded pain chance, as high as 100% for lost souls and as low as 3% for archviles. If the random number is smaller than the pain chance and you're not a charging lost soul, then run the enemy's pain state. A flag indicating that the enemy was just hit is also set. As explained earlier, this flag is used to tell enemies to counter with a projectile attack. What does a pain state look like?
Right, yeah.
Nothing interesting really. Using the Revenant as an example again, it contains 2 actions, both use the same sprite, last 5 ticks each, and one calls the A pain function. All this function does is play the enemy's pain sound. After getting harmed, the reaction time is set to 0. The next piece of code handles infighting stuff. If an enemy is in its spawn state and gets damage on the first idle frame, then immediately retaliate. However, damaging the enemy on the second idle frame won't do anything. Normally, shooting an idle enemy will wake them up because of sound propagation. But let's assume there's a map with sound blocking line devs and an enemy is facing their back to you. You could potentially kill it without the enemy ever fighting back. As long as you only damage the enemy on the second idle frame, he won't retaliate. That is, of course, as long as the pain chance doesn't trigger, because that will set the enemy's state to the C state. Anyway, we mentioned earlier that dropping the enemy's health below 0 will call the p-kill-m object function. If the dying enemy is not a lost soul, then enable gravity. This will cause Cacodemons and pain elementals to drop like sacks of potatoes. The enemy's height will also be quartered. Now it checks what kind of death state to play. As mentioned in the Jibs video, if the damage exceeds the negative of the enemy's spawn health, then run the X death state. The example Revenant has none, so it will play the regular death instead. What does the Revenant's death state look like? It consists of 6 actions. The first 2 don't do much. The third action calls the A scream function where it plays its death sound. If the dying enemy is an imp or any of the 3 zombies, then randomize the death sound. If the dying enemy is a spider mastermind or cyberdemon, then play the death sound at full volume regardless of their position in the level. Back to the Revenant again. The fourth action calls A-fall, which sets the enemy to non-solid. Some enemies call a special boss death function at the end of the death animation. This function checks a list of conditions. If the dying enemy was a Baron of Hell, and all Barons are dead, and the map is E1M8, then lower all walls
That's
that are
not
marked
good for
with
my
tag
headache.
666. Same with Cyberdemons in E2M8 and E4M6. When all Cyberdemons are dead in those maps, then end the map. Also with Spider Masterminds in E3M8 and E4M8. Doom 2 also has this for map 7. Killing all Mancubi will lower all walls marked with tag 666, and killing all Arachnotrons will raise steps marked with tag 667. The latter is a bit flawed when respawning enemies are enabled. Each time the last Arachnotron dies, the step will raise again, soft-locking the map. This will also happen without respawning enemies. If you kill more than one Arachnotron simultaneously, the function will be called more than once, raising the step too often. Now, we're not done yet. Even dead enemies still think. On Nightmare difficulty, each corpse will do a respawn check every game tick. The game checks if this corpse counts towards the kill percentage. If it doesn't, don't respawn. Then it checks the difficulty or respawn parameter. If it's not Nightmare difficulty, or the respawn parameter is not set, don't respawn. If the corpse hasn't been dead for at least 13 seconds, don't respawn. Then every 31 ticks, or 0.88 seconds, there's a 1.5% chance this enemy will respawn. There's one more state to go through and that's the raise state. When an Archvile resurrects a corpse, the enemy's height will be restored by quadrupling it, and its health will be set to the spawn health. The enemy corpse will then run the raise state. Let's take a look at our example Revenant one more time. It pretty much just plays its death animation in reverse and that's it. Archvile resurrection is pretty complicated, so I recommend to watch this channel's Archvile analysis video for more info.
I just fucking passed out for a second there. I gotta move on. I legit passed out for a second there just listening to the video. I was just like listening. I'd been like headbanging and just listening to the music, and I was just like, hell yeah, vibing. And I just passed out. Yeah, Simo, that's I think it's bedtime. Yeah, it's bedtime. I think. I was gonna say, what was the? Someone posted something for me to look at earlier. Did they? Oh, I think this is it. Yeah. So yeah, well, we'll just quickly have a look at this.
From the earth I rise, and to the earth I one day will return. What's up,
Why does this seem familiar?
My name is Colonel Cornelius Cornwall, and I'm here today to introduce you to corn. Corn is a North American cereal.
I'll watch this and
plant
then I'll
that
call
yields
it.
large kernels on a cob.
Call
It
for
is
the
also
day.
called maize because it's easy to get lost in its incredible flavor. Side effects of corn may include choking, I guess. Come
Slam
down
your face into
today
the table.
and try some corn, or we will sacrifice your newborn.
I was gonna say, it's that last line that I'm familiar with. Or we'll sacrifice your newborn. Pope Jam. Alright, yeah, I'll say this is watched, and we'll save the rest for another time. Cool things, Chubby Emu. Beauty of Bezier curves, yeah. All the stuff that Maddie posted at the end here. We'll watch all this next time. Yeah, I'm gonna go sleep. Because clearly I did not get enough sleep. To the parody advert. Yeah. I've not seen the full version of that video, I don't think. I've just seen the shorthand form that this. Go ahead and get some corn, or we'll sacrifice your newborn. Ah! Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sitting through some of my rants and my and I mean we had some good discussions about game development, and it has dawned on me that I have not participated in a game jam in a while. I did think about doing one at the start of this year, but I think I want to do a 12-hour stream sometime before the end of May, sorry. Sometime before the end of May, but it's probably, pardon me, it's probably not going to be able to happen next weekend. It's probably going to have to be at the earliest. The weekend. At the earliest, it'll be on like the 20th or 21st. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Good night at 11 a.m. Yeah, yeah, like 11:15. It's sleep time. I need to stop getting up at 3 a.m. for no reason. Yeah, I need to stop staying up late, even though it's a stream day. Ugh. Yeah. And I need to relax my eyes a bit. I've been playing VR a bunch recently, and my eyes are a bit sore from that. But yeah. I hope you guys had a good stream, and I'll catch you in the next one. Well, I should be streaming tomorrow, but if things come up, then I might end up skipping it. But for now, I am planning to stream tomorrow. So hopefully I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Also, Rory, soft images, that 3D soft. Oh yes. Yeah. I suddenly remembered. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, see you guys. Have a good one. Have a good night. Have a good rest of your day or night or whatever. And I'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow. Invent a pill that was you to sleep. They have. They have developed many. But yeah. Goodbye. Bye.